March 9th, 2020. Bring this meeting to order. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
I think the Recreation Commission asked to move the employee performance reviews at 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. They have someone coming in for the 8:15 item and just wondered if they could be present for the discussion of employee performance reviews also.
Sure. We'll slide everything up 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Any others? Public comment?
Yeah, Mike Russell, welcome.
Thank you.
I just asked the board in your spare time to review in the economic development chapter of the town plan. It's page 1-32. Of course, the whole thing's worth reviewing, but I'd like you to focus on the economic development strategies. And I'd like to report, I think it's good news that a few of those have actually been accomplished. And I congratulate you and the rest of the town for doing those things. The library expansion was one of the things that was supported by that plan. Of course, the sewer allocation and use ordinances have been passed, and I congratulate you on not only passing that, but surviving attempts to undo your work. We don't know if we're there yet, but I thought that was, I and a lot of people are pretty happy to see that we're moving forward with that.
I think the tough work's really to come now.
To implement.
Again, you have to,
Yeah,
so we have to keep that in mind.
nothing worth doing is easy.
Yep, good.
Number 10 calls for the town, it says the town will create an economic development committee to evaluate available economic resources and identify economic development trends to inform future revisions to the town plan. I'd ask you to look at that, and I would suggest that perhaps you could expand the scope of that somewhat broader. Perhaps even to include taking on principal responsibility for doing spade work on your behalf to complete some of the other strategies that are contained in that section. So I won't
Such as?
read them well. I think probably the very first one is a tantalizing idea about creating a farm and food council. So and I think it actually falls within the scope of that last policy, which is essentially to understand what we have here for current businesses, where are there opportunities to encourage them and expand them, and develop a business community here that does what we want it to do. So that's number one on the list, and I think could be towards the top of the list. But there are also, evaluating the land use regulations, advising the planning commission about perhaps some changes. We did some of that before in a less formal way a few years ago. There's the consider consolidating the development to a single development review board. I think that maybe is a little beyond the scope of what this committee could do, but I think it's an important consideration for you all. And reviewing the state-owned parcel next to the commuter rail station, that's in here as one of the, review that, see if what we can do to make that either a useful asset for the town or maybe repurpose it.
I just went down there yesterday and inspected the train station and said to myself, this is a beautiful space that could be utilized.
I'm walking home right through there tonight,
Yeah.
so
So it's really nice to see that it was in good shape and still
Yeah.
painted.
So I'm making this comment and suggesting this, and I am offering to, if it's something of interest, I would help do this, right? Because it's important to me, and I really am very encouraged by what's happened in the last
Well,
few
I
years.
would love to be part of that myself,
That is my
so
comment.
that we can bring it both ways, all the way around to one big happy.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Great.
Yep.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that. We'll pick that
This
up.
is all in section 1.31, is that what that is?
Well, that's the page number.
Yeah.
I think it's chapter 1.1, chapter 1.19. It's entitled Economic Development. It's in the chapter Charlotte tomorrow. And if you're, I can give you my
That'd be great, thank you.
easy to print.
I have it, but
I think I've passed it out to this board before a couple times.
We get lots of
are you
paperwork.
suggesting having a separate committee?
Yeah, I think a single-purpose committee that would have economic development, economic issues as its focus.
Right.
And in addition to taking those policy imperatives on, I'd like to see that group participate to some extent in development review proceedings, to be able to help the boards understand what the possible implications of this application would be, good or bad
Right,
economically.
yeah.
With obviously purely advisory and no authority, but just there to have the voice at the table.
So is that going to make it easier or harder to develop a piece of property by having that kind of
It could go both ways.
DVR thing?
I think it could cut both ways. I mean, the idea is that right now, there's no really any input into the review process that comes from the perspective of, will that help or hurt?
And so because I'm familiar with talking about this all these years, one way that I have thought a different approach, interesting approach, is that we take the outer part of Charlotte and we see what we have. We've got a farm on the east end. What do we have on the north end, southwest? What do we have on the outskirts? And then what's next is important are the conserved land and the trees and whatnot. And then the third aspect are the people that are all within those boundaries, bringing it down to the middle, to what, this is sort of the middle, this is certainly the middle, but the way I have to look at it as a whole is the school is our grounding piece, our middle ground for the town. And that's gonna be even more important in the future, that's the middle to the east side and to the west side. And so once we've kind of looked at, that part, then we're here, then we work back out. And that's just my thought process or something, because I heard the frustration or knew the frustration of people. I don't know if frustration's the right word, but we've talked about this over the years, and so I'm thinking, well, what's another way of looking at it? Because it's better to look at more than one way, right?
Yeah, right. Different points of view.
Yeah,
Different.
and something about seeing what we've got, what's happening in those four directions will give us direction going forward too. So, thank you. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah.
I'm full of a lot of things today.
That's good. You want any others under select board?
Smith,
Public comment?
maybe it's a public question. When are we going to talk about the solar bid process going forward?
So it is back in the Energy Committee's hands. Frank and I are both reappointed as the liaisons. We went to the last Energy Committee on March 4th, day after town meeting, Wednesday? Or Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Wednesday, the day after
Wednesday.
town meeting. The Energy Committee talked about having basically a bifurcated RFP process. One that is going to send out RFPs that are looking towards having the town relook at the town using our land as an asset. And then that RFP process would either be using the land to gain lease income, but not have capital infrastructure obligations. And the other would be for the town, what would someone propose to have the town put up all the money for all the infrastructure, use the town's land to get the best possible rates. The other, that would be one RFP going out that would have two requests within it. And then the other RFP would be a straight net metering, and they're gonna develop a prioritization of evaluating it for the town's priorities. So, priority would be given to local generation versus distant generation, flexibility in the annual terms seem to be important to the board as far as being locked into a 20-year lease. So if there's flexibility there, and then that RFP would go out at the same time. So the idea was that the way the RFP process happened with the library, it was a kind of all-in-one RFP, and then as the parts started getting limited to what our options were, it was a very different request than what originally went out. So this way we'll get a whole new kind of, hopefully flood. There's at least 3 different solar developers we know have some tacit interest. So the Energy Committee is also going to go out and just ask people they know in the industry, if they'd be willing and interested in either of those RFPs.
Any idea when those will go out?
No, I would say definitely
It's in the hands of the Energy Committee right now.
currently. They meet monthly, so they're going to come back next month, hopefully with some product to discuss. And then we would put it on the next select board agenda to discuss with them and hopefully put out. So 4 weeks to 6 weeks would be kind of early.
Yeah, I strongly support going forward with energy initiatives because of climate change. And it's interesting how we're responding to viral crisis quite strongly, but it's really hard for people to believe this climate thing is going to happen for them. And let's just push it down the road or not putting money into it or whatever.
I really look forward to seeing where we end up with this, because there is no way that we were informed enough a month. We were not informed, I was not informed enough a month ago to make such a huge commitment. But I look forward to seeing what the, final answer is. We're all in support of doing that.
I think
So it's good.
making a profit off it shouldn't be our strongest motive.
No, right.
Mike?
Are those RFPs mutually exclusive? Is it one or the other, or are you actually looking for both a net metering contract for credits and developing?
It was the 2 parts were, one was going to be developed on town land where we put the infrastructure in,
Right.
and the other, and on that same one, if the contractor put the infrastructure in. And then that's one, and then there's a straight net metering RFP, so there'll be 2 RFPs.
So you could potentially grant both, let out both contracts for both, or pursue both.
It would be possible.
It could.
Also brought up, I say this tentatively, but they, on a longer term project, I brought it up and someone from the Energy Committee brought up the idea of seeing if the town could act as an intermediary for community solar. So they'll be looking at that and asking people in the industry about the potential to have residents link in their meters to some local generation.
People do that in Charlotte now. I think maybe there's a New Haven site or some other sites nearby. But, yeah.
I think the goal here is to try to put them in with the town's net metering so that maybe we could get a better deal. We'd look more favorable to net metering if we had several houses or residences or businesses that wanted to get on this net metering with the town buildings.
And at the same time, anyone who has an individual desire to jump into the renewables that might have some hesitation or confidence
Or limitations.
skill set, they could leverage the town's expertise and guarantee that it's a stable program. So that they're going to look into that, at the same time, but it might take a little longer. Whereas the RFPs, we're going to move as quickly as we can.
Because I think an important part of discussion will be what does it look like 20 years from now? We're talking about all the different things, but you know what I'm saying? Just, you know, what is a 20-year, if it's a 20-year contract? And
Yeah, that's the tricky part.
right. I'm just saying, to be fair in discussion, because what are we leaving our children for 20 years from now is what, you know, I now have the 12-year-old, and that's what occurred to me is like, okay, what's it gonna look like for my sons as 20 years from now when we're doing anything, not just solar, but anything, so I look forward to it.
Any other public comment? Personnel policy?
This was briefly discussed before town meeting, particularly with regard to an employee who did work at home, and then a question was raised as to whether or not that's appropriate. But it also, I think, has become more recently relevant in terms of coronavirus and the potential for the need for employees to work at home if they do need to quarantine. So there's kind of two pieces to it. But I think Lane is here to talk about particularly the senior center aspect and how it relates to that.
So the personnel policy apparently is silent with regard to work from home or not allowing, just silent. At the senior center, it's important to have the ability to work from home. In the case of the director, she meets and greets a lot of people coming all day, and at the same time, she has a lot of administration responsibilities. So what we've done for the last 10 years or so is the senior center board has allowed an employee, the director, to work from home 1 day a week. And in fact, we did that 6 months ago for Carolyn, but to Mary's point, is it okay? And so I'm just requesting that you perhaps update the policy and allow working from home at the discretion of the supervisor, the supervisory board. And then that gives us, at the senior center anyway, some flexibility. And it's actually, we've done it, I think, on the planning and zoning side over the years, but I can't speak to what the needs are now, but I know that from the senior center point of view, we would like to have it.
So this agenda item wasn't meant to be a final discussion. It was kind of an introduction to the topic. I did pencil it in on the draft agenda for March 23rd. I did reach out to the League of Cities and Towns to ask them, they have an HR specialist, and just to ask it what issues would be raised by, with regard to this issue. And she wrote back, and there's some information in the packet with her email and some draft or sample guidelines and policies.
Is there something that would have to be done with tech group for the work from home and to monitor how many hours are being worked at home?
With the League of Cities and Towns, or?
With tech group, so that
Group.
so that we would know.
I mean, we don't currently have like a time clock, or, our computers don't monitor when someone comes in and out. I mean, there's a potential they're gonna be on the computer, but they also might not be on the computer. They might be, part-time on the computer, part-time making phone calls, part-time doing other kinds of paperwork.
And you were saying that, and Lane, you were saying that they stayed home 1 day a week.
Yeah, they fill out time cards.
But I'm trying to figure out is why that couldn't be done there.
There, meaning the senior center?
At the senior center.
The point I was trying to make is all this interruptions, making sure programs run, people want to talk to the director, and it just dilutes the efficiency of the administration part of our time. But if we have hosts there that volunteer, you have another volunteer, Peggy, a volunteer coordinator. So let's say on Fridays is our least busy day, home, between the host and Peggy, we could, we could still make sure things operate well, and then she can get her Charlotte News quarterly report, that kind of thing together for Front Porch Forum.
What I've mostly seen, I think, is an hour or two on the weekends, not a huge chunk of time, but, and then to have them drive into Charlotte for an hour or two and drive home, if they're not real local, it's kind of a lot of commuting for a short amount of work time.
I like the idea of baking into the policy direct supervisor, so that each department head can kind of make sense of what works for that position. I know here at Town Hall with the two staff, the counter time is largely much more important piece of their job, and that can't really be done from home. And we need to make sure that hours are staffed. So trying to come up with one policy for every employee doesn't seem to make as much sense as by each supervisor. Is it something, do you think we could have some draft language together by the 23rd to edit and mull over?
I think so. We do have the League of Cities and Towns material. I haven't actually gone through that closely, but I could go through that more closely and see if I can pull pieces out of it to make, to fit into our personnel policy.
Thoughts?
I was thinking about pushing it off a few months to, I thought there were other things that were more important to me to work on than this policy here that's just come up over the last couple months. And I just pushed the thought into like August, that day we set the tax rate. We don't do anything but that. And by then, because I just thought it was going to take more work than we had other priorities. for me personally.
I guess to that point, if the policy doesn't mention it one way or the other that it's allowed or not allowed, and the supervisor signs off on every employee's hours as far as the personnel policy goes, then it would be up to each supervisor's discretion at the current point in time for Mary's concerns to validate those hours.
So it's not a rush, it's being, the time cards are being accepted, we've been doing for years. So it's just to clean up the policy. Maybe if you waited until the next time you had another issue, it doesn't matter to us, as long as we're allowed to continue the way we've been continuing.
Yeah, I wouldn't see why not.
Or well, we should really look into it a few months from now, and it's, Dean could pencil it in and
Well,
see
maybe
where everybody's
try and
at.
Get it done before the fiscal year starts.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
So
that's a
maybe
good idea.
start the last meeting in May, and that gives us 2 meetings in June to finish it up if we need to.
Sure.
Does that sound good?
Yep, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, that is definitely.
Stop looking at the clock.
Well, it says it's 5:30, so we're way ahead of schedule.
I thought of that earlier.
Engagement letter with Sullivan Powers & Co. PC to perform an audit of the town's financial statements for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020.
So this is a one-year engagement. Sullivan Powers has done the town's audits for the past 6 years. And I think everyone that has had contact with them feels they've done a very good job. And I asked them to make a proposal for this coming year, which is actually auditing the current year as it ends. So it'll be the FY20 audit. And they said they can do it for the same price as they did last year's. So this would hold the price.
Oh, great.
Yeah, that's better than we did with the budget.
You haven't heard anything negative about this, then you're happy with them?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're happy. I think Mary's happy and.
Mary loves when they come.
And it's only a one-year contract,
Yes,
so.
yep,
And they're on our
Understand.
preferred vendor list.
They are.
So we
Yeah.
put them on our preferred vendor. So we didn't have to put it out to bid.
Okay.
It's probably been a few years.
Is there a motion?
Yeah, it's a motion.
Great. Is there a second?
Sure, why not?
Discussion? Bill?
Just a curious question, how does the fact that we had no candidate running for our town order affect this? Are their duties completely separate, or would that person be involved with this? Or, if we had somebody?
They are completely separate. This is an independent auditor. The auditors do have statutory responsibilities, but the town has decided to have an outside auditor audit the town rather than rely on elected officials to do that. So in really small towns, I think they still did that. I heard a piece on VPR that even a lot of qualified CPAs in towns who have been asked by the towns to do the auditing and be the auditors have declined because of any liability or risk to their certification or business. So it's just a really tough thing to ask amateur or professional local people to do the auditing on behalf of the town. And in the time that we've contracted with them, they've made some significant suggestions and found some minor deficiencies that the town has really done a lot of work to improve. In the last 2 years, have had clean audits because of that work. So I think they've done a good job at bringing the town into accepted government practices.
So my follow-up question would be, is it, since we contract out with this very reliable firm, does that really mean that we don't have a need for the candidate for our town order?
I think they do plug into the system in terms of providing independent review of the bank statements and whatnot as they come through. So, Mary, Christina are involved in financial transactions, but it is good to have a third party review things.
And that's baked into the financial controls.
Yep.
So yeah, they look over and reconcile the bank statements and the general ledger, as does the select board. And yeah, so I don't think it's a vestigial body at this point.
Thank you.
Motion second.
Motion second. Any discussion? More discussion? I think there's more than one place to sign. It looks like they're used to having a three-body
right.
select board, but
Friendly
Add some
amendment.
I think you can add some lines and I'll sign.
add some lines. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
So Dean, I can't remember the gentleman's name that
Andrew?
brought this subject up.
We're, okay, you're talking about the park now, on to the next topic?
Yep, amend and readopt the ordinance regulating conduct in Charlotte Park and Wildlife Refuge to not prohibit firearms in accordance with 24 VSA section 2291 and 2295.
Sure. Bill Agnew brought it up, and Julian Kulski from the Park Committee is here. So the issue that Mr. Agnew raised was state law prohibits towns from prohibiting people from carrying firearms. The town can regulate hunting and use and discharge, but not the carrying. And the park ordinance currently does have a provision that it does prohibit possession while at the park. So I drafted an edit to that and then gave it to the town attorney. And the town attorney also And looking at it, found a few other items, small, really procedural items that they thought should be updated. For example, the enforcement provision and actually, the original adoption didn't have an exact adoption date, it just had the month, so those were items that the town attorney suggested be added. Julian noted that, actually, do you know where the description is?
Oh, the acres?
Yeah.
Okay, no.
The acreage is when.
Just above your head.
Okay.
Section 3, second to last line.
Yep, there it is. So it indicates it's 250 acres, but the scenic overlook was added, which is about 25 acres, so its total is about 275 acres right now. So that should be updated as well. In order to amend an ordinance, the select board basically just adopts this notice, and that gets posted in 5 locations, gets published, and then if there's no petition within 44 days, then the ordinance is in effect within 60 days.
Have you had park members had a chance to look at the edits?
I did.
Yeah?
It looks comprehensive, complete, ready to go. I think all we would have to do is take care of our sign, the parking here.
Okay.
And so Dean, has Bill Agnew seen this?
Yes, yep.
And did he give any comments, or?
His main comment was with regard to enforcement. He wondered whether it could be done in a way to say up to $100 or up to $200. And I did run that by the town attorney, and they thought that that can be problematic in terms of how do you determine for one person it's 50, another person it's 100, and unless we're very clear criteria. So the only thing about signing this would be adding in the correct acreage, which I can redo it and have it available for signing first thing tomorrow, or at some point tomorrow.
I have a question. So that's just discharging some of these items, guns, shooting. If they actually shoot at something, is that involved a different outcome, like fish and wildlife, or?
So
What if they're shooting at beaver? Or-
make a difference between discharging in general versus actually hunting.
Yeah, or just killing something.
Well,
But
so
it's,
the language as proposed is up there.
I mean, that would be
It is
discharging,
wrong. You can't
and it
use
wouldn't
a
be
gun and you
follow
can't
E,
discharge
which
that.
says it would be under the direction of the select board to conduct and manage hunt in accordance with section 4C.
Well, we've never had a problem with that, but I hate to think of people shooting in the park. Do your feet have to be in the park to be shooting in the park, or can you be just outside the park and shooting into the park?
Do you think somebody's going to do that? Shoot in from just outside?
Uh-huh.
Oh, really?
I think it becomes down to I would assume it'd be somebody from the state coming down to figure out whether they shot on the park, whether they were in the park, or whether they were outside the park, and whatever they shot was shot outside of the park and wandered into the park, or, I mean, that'd be a judgment for the fish and game, I would assume, more than the town.
Okay.
And if it was proved that it was in the park, then any actions could be taken.
Suppose if you had your feet outside the park and you shot a deer in the park,
That's,
You went in the park and retrieved your game.
it's illegal to shoot it in the park. If they shot the deer outside of the park and it went into the park after it was shot, they have the right to go and get their animal.
But not if they shot into the park, and then they had to go in and retrieve it.
Again, that would be an
fishing.
investigation from the Fish and Game Department.
That's how I understand it with private property issues. So I would think that would apply the same way.
Yeah.
So the question I have about is the fee, the fine, if you discharge. Is it $100 fine? Is that what suggestion is for
Well-
everybody?
Yeah, so,
For any violation.
there's, yeah, for all ordinances, you're allowed to, if the person admits to it and says, okay, I did it, I'll pay a fee, it's up to $100. If they contest it and it's found that there was an offense, then it's up to $200.
Say that again.
Not up to, just
Oh, I'm sorry.
is.
Thank
yeah.
you, yes.
Not up to.
Correct. Yep.
It's $100 first offense, $200
Okay,
second
and
offense.
that is for everybody, that's not a...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other question I had, what about firecrackers?
That's in there.
It's under E.
Under E.
Talks about bows and arrows,
Slingshots,
slingshots, gas
explosives.
weapons, air rifles, firecrackers, and explosives.
It's fireworks, firecrackers.
And that would have the same fine then, right?
Yep.
Okay.
As long as we're editing section 5J, if we put a space between no and person,
Right.
and everyone's okay with changing the acreage to closer to the actual of 275?
Yeah, that's what it is.
I mean, I guess to cover that while you discuss fireworks, do you want to add fireworks in addition to firecrackers?
Might as well.
Yeah.
It's probably more likely than firecrackers.
Yeah.
Who uses firecrackers? Are those little things that you
You know, the rockets
throw on the
and
pavement?
cherry bombs.
Bill?
I just wanted to follow up on this, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. Sue said, when I read this, it doesn't really, it says, shooting within the park. It doesn't really say if you shoot into the park. And I would, prefer it said, shooting within or into the park.
The part I'm hesitant about doing that off the cuff is there's a lot of state regulations on hunting that we'd have to go back to legal for. I'd be happy to look into that again. But I know with private property issues, that's pretty much covered, with posting and non-posting rules, whether or not people can fire across property lines. So because this is posted land and it is illegal to hunt on it, that's covered in existing hunting rules.
So we do have posted signs.
Every year we do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. The more arcane ones is it's illegal to fire on swimming deer, which I was always wondering, when do you ever see a deer swimming? But apparently, it happens.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
It's hard enough just to see a deer.
For hunting technique,
Yeah, that's not allowed.
the dog brings them down to the water.
And then pushing them in the water. Okay, we have a motion and a.
They got a $200 penalty for not admitting it, and we don't get a waiver.
Sorry.
I'm looking at section 8.
Yep.
There's a $200 fee, civil penalty fee.
Yep.
And then what's the reasoning for going up to 200? the cost of trying to collect?
No, it's,
Deterrence?
yeah.
Which is standard across all ordinances?
Right.
So I know we ran into this one with the down lighting issue over on Ferry Road.
Right. The other thing I'd do is take section 9 and put it below 8. Take it off a different page.
Yeah, we could do that.
What's that?
Get section 9
Section 9
on,
is on a totally
on
different
page
page.
4.
Yeah, I think that's because of the underlying strikeout. When you accept all the changes, it all fits.
nice, nicely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, especially page 2 is really empty also.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a 2-page document on 5 pages.
Yeah, sure.
Got it.
Yep.
So actually, I missed the motion and second. Was there one? Or,
Yes, and then we started discussion.
He motioned it, yep, right, oh,
Yeah, you motioned? Yeah, you made the motion. Who seconded?
I thought
I
Jim made
actually
the
think I
motion, and I
did.
think
You did.
Carrie
Yeah.
seconded it.
for this one? Because, I mean, that was the previous engagement with Sullivan Powers, Jim motion, Carrie seconded.
I think it was the same.
Rinse and repeat.
Same? Okay.
rinse it,
No more discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And there'll be a clean copy tomorrow
Yeah.
at some point to sign?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks. So,
Well, I guess the motion, let's have a second motion I'll make a motion to approve a notice of amendment to the Town of Charlotte Ordinance regulating conduct in the Charlotte Park and Wildlife Refuge. Is there a second?
Sure, I'll
Okay.
second that.
And where did you say we planned on posting that?
there are 5 locations. The typical places are Town Hall, Brick, Spears, Senior Center, and Library.
Great. And you can edit as amended?
Yes.
You're gonna add whatever
Yeah,
changes we
to
made
the
today?
notice.
What's that?
To both the notice and the
Yep.
and
Yep.
the draft.
Okay, sounds good. We had a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Delegated Selectboard member to open the mowing and brush-hogging bids on March 16th, 2020 at 5 PM.
what day of the week is that?
March 16th is a Monday.
Yeah, so we picked this date just because we were kind of in a crunch to try to get the contracts
So,
able to be reviewed by the 23rd.
right, so they'll be opened.
Yep.
And then you'll put together a comparison document for us to look at on the 23rd.
Yep.
And hopefully
Sounds good.
be prepared to approve while the grass starts growing.
Yeah.
Well, Jim and I are on the town properties and facility liaisons, if that
That'd be the way to
is-
do it.
Yeah,
Great.
Yeah, it's a good way to do it.
Okay, and it won't be will it be an official meeting? Not really.
Not if two of you,
It'll
no.
just be right here.
Yep,
If people want to come, usually the bidders sometimes want
Yeah.
to see the bids opened.
Sure.
So if it's done somewhere public like here, that'd be great.
Yep.
Okay.
no, we're just gonna open them and then give them to Dean and say,
Yep.
Yeah,
there you go.
open them, announce what the numbers are, and then give them to me.
Okay, I can do that.
Great. Catching right up. US Census for 2020 update?
up front is good, I'll have your slides up on the screen. Yep. And I know, first name is Bob, but I'll,
Bob Stock,
Stock.
Partnership Specialist with the United States Census Bureau. So, Select Board, residents, thank you for inviting me tonight. I almost made it to Charlotte to live. I'm about, as I mentioned to Dean, about a Babe Ruth home run from it over on Mount Philo Road. So, maybe in the future I'll move down. So, if you could grab the next slide, please. We're talking about the upcoming 2020 census. People will begin to be able to respond starting this Thursday. So the U.S. Census Bureau itself is the leading statistical agency in the U.S., which most people are aware of. And it's not just the 2020 census or the decennial census that we do. There's about 130 different surveys that we have going at any given point in time. One of the ones that's near and dear, and we'll talk about this specifically for Charlotte in a moment, is the American Community Survey, which you see up there. That was the long form of the census that many of you may remember. That was replaced in the year 2000 with the current census, which only has 9 questions on it. And to be honest with you, I actually wind up giving more information to American Express or to Amazon than I would on the census, because really all we're looking for, name, address, phone number in case it's incomplete, we need to call you, and some demographic information. We don't want social security numbers. We don't want bank information. We don't want credit card information. So it's really just a count. So, as I mentioned, we're under Article 1, Section 2. We conduct every 10 years, years ending in 0. There are 2 major things of import with the census. One is representation. That's not something we're going to have to worry about in Vermont anytime soon. When I got here in 1984, the population was about 602,000. It's about 623,000 now, and we are in a slight decline. It got to 626 and it's tapering. So we're not going to get to 750,001 anytime soon, which would be the next level for a rep. What is important, however, is the funding. And we move on here, we'll talk a little bit about that as we go forward too. There's about $675 billion in federal funding that gets distributed to the states. I'm not aware specifically of what it is for Vermont, but what I do know is that there are 55 major programs in Vermont that are impacted by this, where we have one chance every 10 years to get this right. That's Medicaid, SNAP, which is the food stamps, highway planning, Section 8 housing, special education, Medicare Part B assistance. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. Infrastructure. So it is vital that we count everybody, count them only once, and count them in the right place. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So, next please. I'm going to move through some of this pretty quickly because I just want to hit the highlights on this. It is safe. We do not share information, personal identifiable information, with anybody. We don't share with Homeland Security, ICE, the FBI, the CIA, and we're not superseded by the Patriot Act. This has been tested in court. So we don't look for a lot of personal identifiable information, but if we get it, it's stored offline, and we don't share it. So every Census Bureau employee that's wearing one of these is required to take an oath for life to safeguard the information. And the penalties, as you can see, are severe for not doing so. Please. Can you keep going there, please? We don't need that. Okay. Something new and different this year, which actually kind of surprised me. I've been with the Bureau for about a year and a half. I actually come out with a technology background. When they told me this is the first time you can respond online, I was like, really? The internet's been around since the late 90s. But yeah, it's first time online, via phone, paper, or the personal visit by the census employee, which we hope not to do too much of. If it's online or phone, there are 12 different languages in addition to English. If it is a personal visit by a census employee, some of us remember when they used to walk around with a clipboard. iPad now with 59 languages on it. So again, all we're really looking for, name, age, date of birth, and some demographic information. We don't want anything else beyond that. That's it. So there's some examples of the language support that we'll be doing. That's the main ones that you can get on the phone or on the internet for that matter. Oh, by the way, those are unique individual toll-free numbers for each one. It's answered by a live body. There's no prompts. And there's the 59. I managed to find one in Burlington that's not written. Mai, which is an African language. So we will hire somebody from that group to be able to enumerate for us. So, as I mentioned, March 12th, people can start responding. There's the rollout of the dates in terms of when things will be mailed and when things will be done. Just some dates to remember. You can start responding as early as March 12th. We will begin what we call the enumeration period. That's for those households that have not responded, May 15th. It will run through July 31st. We have a statute requirement to get the results to the President by December 31st, 2020, and to Congress for redistricting by April 1st, 2021. We are doing some enumeration ahead of time. You may have seen something in the paper. There's some done in Alaska and northern Maine, but we're doing now what we call group quarters housing, prisons, nursing homes, college dormitories, things like that. And we conduct a homeless count across the country, March 30th, 31st, and April 1st. It's done across the country at the same time. And we can keep going on that, that's fine. So, we are still hiring. You know, I live in North Vermont, but I work for the New York, out of the New York Regional Census Center, which is in Lower Manhattan. It's very much a Lower Manhattan worldview. And when they mentioned to me that our recruiting goal in Vermont was 9,100 people, I said, you know, we have a couple of counties up here that don't have 9,100 people. They weren't impressed. So we needed the 9,100. They have some metrics that they use. We're actually hiring 2,000 people. This is the largest single effort that the United States undertakes in peacetime. Nationally, it'll be over 500,000 people hired. So, and these are good jobs. The enumerator position I was talking about, it's $20 an hour, work part-time, work as much or as little as you want. It'll last for about 10 weeks, although there'll be some before and some after. But for most, it'll be about 10 weeks. Parking, mileage is paid and training is paid in addition to that. So we're still encouraging people to apply. We had a nice spike. The governor had a press conference back in February, and within 2 weeks after that, we put on about a little over 700 people. So that publicity was really good. I mean, we can go through that. We can keep going there. These are the things I was just talking about. Like I said, I just want to move through this. Some of this of what was here is, we'd be talking if we were bringing partners on board, and I'll explain that in a minute. When you see this, the complete count committee, a number of the cities and towns in Vermont have these. And they're typically aimed at the cities and towns that have what we call hard-to-count populations. I mentioned earlier the American Community Survey, which I'll show you for Charlotte in just a minute. One of the things that does is it tells me every census tract in Vermont what would be the predicted non-response on the census if we did nothing. No advertising, nobody out there talking about it, just nothing. So the darker the tract, the higher the non-response. And a lot of those are where you might think that they would be. So what we do, for example, Burlington, Winooski, Essex, South Burlington, St. Albans, Barry, and about another 20 around the state, have what is known as the Complete Count Committee, usually authorized by a select board or a city council, appoints a census liaison, and then brings trusted members of the community onto the board to make sure we get to everybody and count them. So traditional hard-to-counts, the homeless, seniors living rural, seniors over 65 that are rural, 18 to 24. Why? Because during the last census, they were 8 to 14. Right? They have no exposure to it unless they're getting it in school or their parents are talking about it. Hard to count. Please. So we can probably just move on from some of this. Yeah, there's the phases. We can keep going. And these are some of the ways that we support partners. Yeah, please. Okay. This is more what I wanted to really get to with you. That is, because we like acronyms, it's called ROAM. It stands for something equally obtuse, Response Outreach Area Mapper. So you see the dark areas there? Those would be hard to count census tracts. If we were looking at this for New York City, you probably wouldn't be able to see it. The whole thing would be green, dark green. So we don't have a whole lot of them in Vermont, but it doesn't mean that we don't have some. Fortunately, we don't have anything with a predicted low response score greater than 30%. That would not make us happy. Okay. Okay, so there's Charlotte. So you're in pretty good shape. According to the American Community Survey, what it's saying is, and I've highlighted some of these, your low response prediction is about 13.2%. Now, census advertising will help to bring that down. Your word, if you do social media, if you talk about it, However, you communicate with the citizens of Charlotte, that will bring it down. And we'll bring it down also with some of our other partners that are working in Charlotte. So it's got your population number there. Oh, by the way, the American Community Survey is reported as a sampling of every census tract in the country, and it's reported on a 5-year moving average. So yeah, the data's pretty good. The median household income is high. Didn't take me by surprise, but Vermont's about 52. Median age is almost right on the line. Population under 5 can be very hard to count if it is single parents, and we know this. So we make a lot of effort to get a hold of people that deal with that group. Could be daycare, could be some of the social services, could be a number of different things. So that's something we pay attention to. You don't have a large population of 18 to 24. For the Census Bureau, that's good news. Okay? But you do have a fairly significant population of 65 and over, and you do have some rural. So that would be another one that we'd be paying attention to. And you have really nobody below the poverty level, which is terrific. Renter occupied, that actually took me by surprise. I didn't think you'd have a number that high. But they're stable, they're not moving very much. And then the no internet access, which can be a problem. But you have pretty good penetration with internet.
Just out of curiosity, this is the most interesting slide so far for me. The foreign born, is that differentiate between naturalized and unnaturalized?
I'll say that again.
Does that differentiate between naturalized and unnaturalized foreign born? Or it's both?
No, it's
citizens and
just somebody
non-citizens?
self-reporting on an American Community Survey that they weren't born in the United States.
Got it.
That's it. Oddly enough, the citizenship question, which is so controversial, is not on the census, obviously, but it is on the American Community Survey. But that's not reported. I mean, it's personal identifiable information, so it doesn't get reported.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Are the Abenaki Indians able to identify as
Yes.
Native Americans?
And
now?
Chief Don Stevens is a good friend of mine. We've been working very closely together on this. If you look at, I should have had an example of the census form up there. If you look at it, right under where the demographics are, there is a big block for American Indian. And right below that is the opportunity to put in tribe affiliation. Yeah,
So they weren't able to do that in the last census, were they?
I don't know.
I don't think the state recognized them.
My understanding, I just read an article in the Vermont Quarterly VM publication. They're state recognized, but not federally recognized.
Right. From the census standpoint, as a citizen of Vermont, as a friend of Don's, okay, but from a census standpoint, it doesn't make any difference to us whether they're state or federal. We're just counting the demographic that's an American Indian and the tribal affiliation. Don's concerned because he wants to make sure that the numbers stay where they're supposed to be, or higher. And, in dealing with some of the legislators from the Northeast Kingdom and from Franklin County, they're concerned because their population is declining. So that impacts their representation. So, yeah, it's important we count everybody. So this, what you can see on the right there, that little right block on the right, if we were looking at the Rome area map, and it's on census.gov, by the way, if you want to take a look at it, you can scroll down, there's all kinds of information on that. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. It's the data that we collect. A lot of good information. I know the planners use it. So many people can use it. Okay. This is just about finished. This is a program that is not particularly well known. However, it is a free program that the U.S. Census Bureau offers. If you have folks that are writing grants, if you have people that need to take a look at some sort of data to put in something together, and you have a pretty good sense that we have it, but you don't know how to get it, or if you do, you're not sure how to format it, there's going to be a toll-free number on the next slide. If you call that number, it's answered by a live body. They will work with you to do that, to get that done. If they have to come out, they will, and it's a free service. I had them here, this was late last year for the Burlington Free Press, Times Argus, and some of the Middlebury College journalism students, taking them through some of the data mining that we do. Keep going, please.
Dean, I think that may be something we want to pull lots of that information someplace.
Yeah, it's 18844 hash data.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good service. Thank you. If there are any other questions? Yeah.
So I know the Senate wants to redo the Senate districts, based upon the new population studies. What's the time frame for you to get preliminary information out there?
I think that the data that goes, as I mentioned, to the president by December 31st, 2020, but the data for redistricting won't be until April of 2021. Now, I don't know whether we'll publish the state data before we give it to the congressionals. I tend to think not.
Okay. One other follow-up question. I know that you don't ask for any personal financial information, but what are you doing to prevent scammers, email or phone calls?
It's going to happen. I mean, it's already happened. There's a number that people can report on it. They also can, if they speak, the police know how to get in touch with us. The governor, we have a state complete count commission. They're putting a lot of publicity out about this. So yeah, and this kind of people can try to take advantage of it. I've seen some of the stuff already, not Vermont, but other states.
Could we get some sort of notice about that, published in our local paper or anything?
Sure. Yeah, we can give you a number. I can do that. I can send it to Dean. Can I send that to you? Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Dean, did you have a question?
I wondered a little bit about how the American Community Survey gets, how that's distinguished from the census, but maybe it's better if I just ask that to you offline, unless other people are interested. I know that it's used a lot for a lot of, like you say, for a lot of planning purposes and whatnot, and as far as commutes, directions of commutes, simple things like that. I mean, that's one example. But so I haven't actually been involved with the American Community Survey, but you made a distinction, and I was just curious about how they're.
Well, that's just it used to be the long form of the census. I mean, it's asking information like income, citizenship, how long have you lived where you live. I mean, we're all about data. We'll keep asking until somebody tells us not to. So, yeah. But if you look at the Rome, the Census Rome, that is all of the American Community Survey data. As I mentioned, that you can scroll that. I mean, it just keeps going and going and going.
Well, you say it's not reported, or it's not.
It's what?
You said it's not reported. The American Community Survey is not reported, or that is there personal information on it? Or
No.
Okay.
No, we don't put personal information on anything.
Okay.
In fact, if we had a small census tract, which we do, a number of them in Vermont, if we had a significant ethnic population that reported in that where they're identifiable, we would just lump them in with everybody else. I'm sorry, did you have a question?
Well, is the community survey a separate form?
Completely separate.
So when
It's
it
random.
gets mailed to us, we're gonna get our census form? and
Everybody
another
gets a
form?
census form, okay? The American Community Survey is a sampling in every census tract. I've never gotten one. A couple of friends of mine have gotten one. So I'm not sure how they determine it, but it's just a statistically valid sample,
Mhm.
and it's done every year.
And that's mailed?
That would be mailed, yes. And sometimes you'll have somebody come around on that to go through it with you. There are census people working all the time, not just on the 2020. So just, I'll let you get back to work. Just please, whatever you can do to promote it and whatever you can do to promote the jobs, we would be grateful.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thanks. I know we have some other items on the agenda. Rob just asked whether the select board wants to or intends to discuss the article or some other communication about coronavirus. There was there were a few emails today, and whether that's something that you'll be,
Maybe select board updates.
okay. I don't know how long you're
Yeah, I
available.
was trying to get training, we got one on registration for EMS, but I didn't know if you guys already discussed it or not, so.
Are you able to come?
We will at the end.
Okay, what time would that be?
We have select board updates at 8:45.
Okay.
But what, I'm missing what you came for, to update us on
The coronavirus, what we're doing and stuff.
what CVFRS is doing.
Yeah, just try to alleviate some fears out there, that's all.
Would people be okay with just listening for 5 minutes and then continuing the discussion, so Rob can go home?
Well, we got training scheduled over there.
Oh.
Training at the firehouse. So
Okay.
that's what I'm trying to get to. So I just want to, discuss and, so, a little bit about what went out or what's going to be going out in the article. Basically the coronavirus it's a flu virus, okay? It's similar to the flu. We are taking no extra precautions at CVFRS. What we're doing is we're treating it like we're told. So we receive updates from Vermont EMS office daily. Sometimes every 4 hours, we're getting these different updates from the EMS office. And whenever I get those, I send those out to our folks as well. Email, active 911, so they're all aware of them and they're getting them. Basically what we're doing is we're treating it like a respiratory illness. If we suspect, we ask the questions, have you traveled anywhere? Have you been in contact with anybody? Anything that you're aware of? The common questions that are being asked for that. And if we suspect they might have coronavirus or they have been in contact with somebody that has had it, we put a mask on them, a surgical mask or an oxygen mask. We put an N95 mask on us, which is a step up from the surgical mask. It's a filtered mask. We put on eye protection. We put on a gown. We have our rubber gloves on like we always do anyways. And we bring them to the hospital. One of the questions asked was, can we separate our patient compartment from the driving compartment? Yes, we can. We either have a window to shut or a door to shut. There's also exhaust fan in the back of the ambulance that we can turn on if we need to be able to exhaust the contaminants if we have to. We have the supplies for what we would come into contact with in Charlotte. Obviously, if it became an epidemic in Charlotte, it would be an issue. I've tried to purchase or have our supply person purchase some equipment. It's all sold out. It's gone. People are stealing it from hospitals. I haven't been in Burlington recently, but I'm sure there's people walking around in Burlington with masks on, like they are all over the world. But we're doing business as normal. If we suspect we have somebody with that condition, we're letting the hospital know. We're taking our little extra precautions as a respiratory illness we would. We do the same exact thing if we suspect that they have the flu virus, okay? So it's typically nothing, our business hasn't changed, okay? What I don't want to happen is a panic, start throughout the town of Charlotte because we've got one case in Vermont right now, and more people have died from the flu than this over many, many, many years. And we're just, it's being sensationalized, unfortunately, and people are reacting to it, and it's becoming a panic type situation. And I don't want that to happen in Charlotte. So, one of the questions was asked at the town meeting. I wasn't there, but I was asked about it. Would we take you to the hospital? Yes, we would take you to the hospital. We're obligated to do that. We would do that. Okay, there's no questions asked. We wouldn't say, well, no, you've got that, so we're going to push you off over here. That's not going to happen. We're going to bring you to the hospital just like we would any other case. So, okay?
Yeah, I appreciate your measured approach, and I think everyone is listening daily to the Department of Health updates and the governor's
Yeah, and
updates.
they're available on their website. I'm going to put out a thing tomorrow on Front Porch Forum, and I'll have that link out there as well, that people can go to that link and pull out the same information that we get.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Rob.
Okay?
Appreciate the work you do. Next agenda item, the update on the Mount Philo State Park parking lot expansion and change of access. Dean, you brought this to our attention. Do you want to update us?
Sure. So the state had contacted Planning and Zoning Office a few months ago about the potential for making a change to the access and to the parking lot. And then they did submit a sketch plan review for site plan review, which is the first step in the permitting process, and that did go to the planning commission already. And what's anticipated is that if they proceed as proposed, they would need a highway access permit, which comes to the select board. And then procedurally, it would go back to the planning commission for the final site plan review. I guess I raised it to the select board because we haven't received a highway access permit application yet. Generally, we have a great relationship with the state, particularly Parks, Vermont Parks and Recreation and Forest Parks and Recreation. And I thought if there's any issues, it would be good to provide those as soon as possible, or potential issues, potential concerns. And I have to say, I do have some concerns. I think the proposal does address needed changes in terms of the queuing, lengthening the queuing to the parking lot, adding additional parking. What my concern is, we have a known problem on Mount Philo Road, that is speed, and it's not clear that this does anything to address that. And if there were a potential for addressing that through a four-way intersection, which is perhaps the most easiest way to address something is when there's a four-way intersection, then this removes that option. Yes, we can put in signage. Yes, we can put in stripes, but often I think we've heard that signs and stripes can be ignored, require replacement, and this isn't to undercut the planning commission's process, but I did lay out my concerns to the state prior to their submission of the application, and I just wanted to make the select board aware of it. If you wanted to, I guess what I would see as a potential option is to ask perhaps regional planning to do an evaluation, and whether that's done at the select board level or at the planning commission level, I'm not sure, although Peter may have some thoughts about that.
So can I pick up where your personal concerns are?
Yes.
So I'm not sure that we have data suggesting that there's a safety issue at that area, or any recommendations that a four-way light is a recommendation from
Not
anyone.
necessarily a light, but just go ahead.
So I guess it does feel like cart before the horse. If the planning commission is doing the siting and we do the curb cuts, I would think those concerns would be best brought up during the planning process, not at the select board. So that's my 2 cents on how this happens. I haven't really seen the select board yet weigh in preemptively on planning or zoning deliberations before they've happened. Is that Peter?
Yeah, I had responded to Dean's initial email, and I agree with what you're saying. I mean, I think, discussions about the access really are best brought up during sketch plan review. And when we had sketch plan review, there was no one on the planning commission objected to moving it to the north. And I wasn't aware of any specific speed issues, as Dean had mentioned, or the thought of a four-way stop there. But we did talk about screening for the parking lot. We also talked quite a bit about signage for the trail, where it's going to cut across onto State Park Road. Yeah. And
A little to the left, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So Daryl's in the process of writing a sketch plan review letter, which basically covers everything that we've discussed during sketch, with any recommendations that we think, or things that we think they should consider. But so we didn't object to, we didn't have any issues with the new access. The site distance is good there. So that's where we are. I mean, we have 45 days, so I think this sketch was,
No, the trail, you got the town trail going across Mount Philo Road. And at this point, it dumps before their check-in station. What's the safe route from the trail to Mount Philo itself? Is there gonna be a trail next to the entrance road so that it can go up?
well, it's right, I
Off-
think
off
it's, if I understand you right, Frank, it's right where they have a little dash line that comes in basically to the drive, right?
Right, but
And you would
when,
walk by the house and then you pick up the trail that.
And you'd pay,
That's
right? Walkers
So that
pay
was-
to go into the park.
I had some other ideas about rerouting it in a different way, but not thinking about the payment factor.
There could be an off-hours trailhead and a,
that makes sense.
Bill?
So I caught the end of the planning commission meeting on this, and, you know, I didn't really have an initial problem with it, but the more I think about it, I kind of support Dean on this, because, you know, you gotta also think about the future. You know, speeding is a problem now, and I think we are gonna have more traffic on Mount Philo Road in the future. And I hate to see what is a four-way intersection with good sightlines changed to this. I'm particularly concerned about people exiting the park, trying to make a left with oncoming traffic coming down the hill and go very, very fast. You know, we got to think about where we're going to be 20 years from now. You know, we're cutting us you know, off the option of maybe putting a stop sign down there when we need it by changing the entrance here. And I'm curious from Peter's point of view, how come what was their reasoning why they needed to eliminate the four-way intersection? I mean, when you put in that new parking lot, it seems like they could still keep it. What was their rationale?
I think mainly it was because they wanted to have a better queuing device, so it kept, from a safety perspective, so it keeps people from being queued up on either Mount Philo Road or on State Park Road trying to get into the park. So by having it, you know, by moving the access to the north, they have that long stretch of drive where cars can queue up.
And nothing eliminates having a three-way stop in the
Yeah,
future.
I was gonna say, we get a
I
flashing
mean, they
red
do that in a
light.
lot of places, they have always stops. So, I mean, they could have a three-way stop there.
And they could return a four-way if the need arose. I mean, there's certainly a present danger with people parking on the side of Mount Philo Road and on the side of State Park Road and blocking the sight lines of that four-way intersection. Getting those cars off of the road and into proper parking seems to be the imminent danger, just from my perspective, but we have no party as a select board except as residents at the planning commission to weigh in on that planning process.
Is there any harm in getting the CCRPC to just look at the design?
It would be probably the planning commission to do that, rather than the select board. I think that's what the select board gives.
If I could just pop in just a comment here.
Sure.
Just simply to want to make sure that fire rescue gets involved a little bit on this. The turning radius there for their truck that would show up for a car fire needs an 80-foot radius, so got to keep that in mind a little bit. And the other part of that is that some of those trucks weigh 50,000 pounds, so the aggregate has to be good enough to support it. And so maybe a little conference with fire rescue would be helpful.
Is this,
And I would encourage everybody to come to the site plan review, which we don't know when that will be yet.
Right.
We have to issue the sketch plan review letter first.
so sketch plan review letter goes out and then,
45 days, right, and then they'll review that, and then they'll make any adjustments they want to, and then they would come back for the actual site plan.
but before that, they would come to the select board for curb cut application? Or no?
Typically,
They would do that
yeah.
first. Got it. Is this doubling the parking?
Pardon?
Is this doubling the parking capacity?
Yes, and I had asked about that, and they said that they had looked at the numbers and that they felt that this was adequate to cover all of the needs, parking needs, because they said, well, what happens if both lots fill up? And he said if that happens, they'll shut the park down.
Yeah, right.
But of course, that doesn't necessarily preclude somebody from.
I would think they'd come and
parking
apply
on the
for more
side of the
parking.
road.
Well, they have the queue too for overflow.
They do, yeah.
People can park on the side of the queue
So,
on state property instead of the roads.
you know, I guess you can look at it many ways, right? Another way is you increase the parking, does that mean it's gonna increase the usage because people now know there's more parking spaces?
It's a field of dreams.
Will this have an effect on the trails?
Right.
Of being able to park at the state park and go walk the trails, the town trails?
Right, ask him to, yeah, all that.
Well, you have to pay to park there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but some people may pay to park there and then walk right out onto our trails. It's definitely a possibility.
I think I actually heard that, you know, before, that encourage him to go on the trails.
So all development that the state does on the state park has to go through the planning commission? Question? Is that,
That's a good question. I don't think I think it's only because it's parking that it comes to the town. Like if they
so any new
restructured trails or.
or
Within
buildings?
the park, that wouldn't have anything to do with the town.
Buildings?
That I don't think.
Trail development wouldn't have to, even though there's core forest there?
I don't believe so because it's state land. I don't think, because I know that they're rerouting some of the trails as well. So I think that's driven totally by the state, I believe.
I think the issue is the curb cut.
Curb cut for the select board.
I think that's the issue.
That's
It
the only thing the
drives
select board really
it. Yeah.
looks at.
Okay.
Thank you. Next agenda item is the employee performance reviews, the final
Move that to roughly
8 o'clock.
So,
Yep, next on the agenda, thank you. The agreement with CVSD regarding the use of Charlotte Central School for elections. What I would propose to everyone is to have two of us move forward to work directly with the district and take the concerns and interests of the board members and then come back with updates and discussions every meeting until we come to a MOU that works. I'd like to take point on that, since I've already been to those meetings with Fritz, but since Fritz is no longer on the board, I was thinking about having two of the five of us. I know Louise, I don't want to volunteer her out of hand, but she has a background with drafting legal documents and had some long-term concerns.
Looking at it.
Would people be okay with
Sure.
nominating us to move forward with that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. We can send updates after every meeting, as long as they don't become discussion points, and no decisions are made. We can just update you between meetings, as far as any developments in the discussions. And
You
then,
want some feedback from us, though,
yes,
right?
at any time, what you
Yeah.
think is important to include in the MOU. Currently, what we have, what we've discussed and are thinking about is a long-term comprehensive MOU and seeing if we need to come up with a shorter-term, narrower MOU that deals just with the use of the school for elections. So we're kind of looking at both of those. If we can figure out how to put them all together and figure out what the long-term relationship is going to be between the newly formed district and the town using CCS, that would be great. But if it needs to be two parts, I think having agreements in place is better than not.
Maybe this is the wrong time, but if what kind of jurisdiction do they have on Saturdays?
It's a good question. We're going to have to go back and forth between the questions that we raise, talking with our general counsel and asking, the district what their opinions are.
Well, they got total control of it, so I mean, they can choose whatever they want to do on Saturdays, but I think the MOU that they had suggested that there would be very limited expense or added expense to have it on a Saturday when school's not in session. I think that was the main thing, is when school wasn't in session, I don't think there was a lot of expense or any expense to using the school.
Right. Their main concern was when school is in session.
Maybe another good reason to have town meeting on Saturday.
Yeah, I think it definitely supports
There's
that.
a thought.
Okay. Moving right along. Goals, priorities, work plan, and board member assignments. Dean came up with an updated list from last week. Just wanted to compare, see everyone's okay with that. The select board liaison list.
Where did I put that
I
thing?
think the really new items are at the end. I don't remember the title, possible other items.
Well, I think I had jotted down for road commissioner bridges, Frank and Jim. And you have Louise on this updated one?
Road commissioner and.
Third one.
Okay.
And Louise, Matt, Jim and Frank, Matt and Frank, Carrie.
Is that something you've done this morning?
It was from
I mean,
last week.
I can do more if necessary. If somebody's gonna have issues with doing, looking at stuff or making meetings or whatever.
So
I
they
think
did fill in the blanks.
you
which
got
I
me
don't
covered
have.
on energy committee and
I mean, I do
case I
have,
can't
but not
make it, but-
online. So, I'm
Yeah.
sorry,
You'll be
road
released.
commissioner and bridges were Frank and Jim.
Yep.
Okay.
So I'm good. Anyway, Carrie, are you happy with your assignments?
I am. I love the town properties and recreation. I think it's great.
Sounds like there's some interest in the public. I don't know if you just want to read who's doing what, just, I have last week.
Sure. So let's see, for Shot Volunteer Fire and Rescue Service, we have Jim. The State Police will be Matt and Louise. Road Commissioner and Bridges will be Frank and Jim. Senior Center will be Louise. Library will be Louise. Charlotte Park and Wildlife Oversight Committee, Wildlife Refuge Oversight Committee will be Matt. Planning and Zoning will be Jim and Frank, respectively. Conservation Commission is Frank. Energy Committee, Matt and Frank. Recreation, Carrie. Trails Committee, Louise. Town Properties and Facilities, Jim and Carrie. West Village Wastewater, Louise. Thompson's Point Wastewater, Jim. And then on the flip side, you have an updated town meeting, select board schedule
Right.
for regular meetings. I have Dean out, but is that just Memorial Day? You'll be in Tuesday, or you're out that
No,
whole?
it's June, I think it's June 18th. It's the last meeting in June.
Okay, 22nd.
Yep.
Okay. And Carrie, you're out. On the 22nd, you won't be here?
Correct.
22nd of
June?
June. So Sue, I'll work really hard to get some of those, you know, younger, medium-sized people into your park this
Very good.
year. I think I'll have an opportunity to have a little extra time, so I'll do the best I can.
Contact us with the readopt
Yeah.
plan.
Okay, great. Probably Tuesday is early dismissal day. Be a
Tuesday?
really good day.
So there was a handout for Thursday's meeting that included kind of a task list that based on the calendar, based on month to month, and then some other items at the end, maybe you don't have it.
I wrote all over mine.
Okay, well, that's good.
Questions.
What do you, for,
I do have an extra copy. Mine, do have a copy.
the work plan? Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah, you have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have that?
It wasn't in this week's packet, it was in Thursday's packet.
Okay, thank you.
So I had a little bit of thought on this. And, well, I guess we already addressed one with the work from home.
Yep,
Yeah,
we'll pick that up.
so I had thought of that. The capital budget program, Dean,
Yeah,
could we like move that into April or Matt into April?
okay.
Just because the sooner we start out the year, I feel like it's our year, starting in March with a new.
How would you like to start that?
Well, probably just by learning it all. So we had this first spreadsheet and any updated information, and let's just start talking from there.
Great.
I mean, it probably doesn't,
Yeah.
15 minutes to begin with, or I don't know.
Yeah, figure out all the assets and figure out
Yeah.
figure out a
Just gonna be a way
budget
to
and a
kind of
program for them.
understand things.
Life
going
expectancy
forward
of
and-
things.
Yeah, Kara did mention it to me a few weeks ago, and I started kind of trying to update the spreadsheet, which I can provide, and then you can see if you want to go with that or change it or do something different.
Because if we were going to try to, build something else 10 years from now, we would know at a 10-year glance what's happening, or, so I appreciate that. And I guess I've been advised we really should look at it every few months, or I guess we'll learn what the right timing is.
So you want to start looking at that April 27th?
Sure, if you do.
April 27th.
And I'd like to hire Fritz in July to take us for a boat ride again.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Wait, I thought Jim was going to do that. That comes with the city.
You have a boat?
Yeah, Bobo, yeah.
Oh, okay,
but-
very good. Well,
Yeah,
guess
sure
what we're
you wanna
doing
go
in
on it,
July?
but I have a boat.
Oh,
She can fit 5 people. I'll tell you.
You can fit 5 people. But it's not like Fritz's boat, let's get a handle on it, right?
That's a one-off. Any other thoughts about the work plan? People's priorities that you want to see?
So,
actually, I do have one more.
go ahead.
All right.
Please.
Do we want to have that town meeting, committee meeting earlier in the year? So that we're all working together going forward?
Yeah, where is that?
It's not on
down
here.
in
It's,
August.
there's an item, other items discussed at town meeting, so I think that falls under that.
Yeah, let's pick that up.
No, I have it right here.
Oh,
It's,
you do?
it's in It's in August.
Meeting of all town committees.
Oh, that's for the budget discussion?
Yes, but I thought we actually combined all of that, talking about budgets that night, having the pizza, talking about other things.
So when would you like to meet with all the,
But we wouldn't talk about budgets. I was thinking we'd be more like April or early May. Because, any committee would talk about
Well, I
what
would say early May, because that's when,
up and
because the
coming
terms
plans
are up
are,
on.
what we're doing.
this
sort
would
of
be like a
pep rally,
cross-pollination
pep
Well,
meeting.
Yes.
it's, the terms are up on April 30th, So it would be better if it was done in May
Perfect. Yep,
to
great.
not only meet the committees again, but to meet the new members.
So is that a joint meeting with all of them, or is it?
Yes.
Individual committees?
It sounds like from what I'm hearing Carrie say is a meeting with everyone from every committee who can attend to talk about what their committees will be doing throughout the year.
Like we've done before, because people like to do that from the feedback that I got.
If pizza's involved, count me
I
in.
say we did.
So I'm looking at May 11th or May 26th. May 26th, we might have a lot of people out of town, being Memorial Day, or
True.
Oh, yeah.
11th?
May 11th?
May 11th, great.
Okay. So that would
You're
be
gonna send us out a revised thing. Okay, thank you.
May 11th, all committee.
Are you all set there, Kelly?
I just had one other bit of feedback. The fire and rescue budget was not in the town report.
I think
What
it
was
was
the
that they
hearing?
wanted a presentation at town meeting.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's.
Peter Nobes.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I think Fire and Rescue went back and forth on
Yes,
whether
I-
they would do the presentation at.
and I told them that too when I talked to this.
Yep.
Okay.
So we'll just bake that into the meeting next year.
Okay, I'm all done now.
No, set.
Yes,
So
thank you.
I have just two items. One would be to do with other items discussed or voted at town meeting. Spent a lot of time with that nonprofit issue back and forth, and it may be a good idea to put some sort of committee together to vet those requests.
There's people ready to
Yeah.
help do that.
I was
so.
involved in United Way that way, and we vetted it, and it worked out very well. It's a little bit better to have them come and present than it is just to receive a piece of paper.
Yep.
So anyways, I think that for other items or possible other items, we ought to think about that.
But would that be something you'd want to have another whole committee for, or with the number of organizations asking for donations, would it be something that would be vetted just in our meetings, and instead of just receiving a letter, have them come in to present?
Well, I mean, maybe we're the committee. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Maybe we're the committee, we don't have to, but I think the important thing is to vet them, and most important, we'd like to have them here
I
to present, as opposed to sending us a
piece of paper.
request. on a
Right,
piece of paper.
I'm just saying, is it something that the select board, that it would be good to have it happen at a select board meeting and have them present to the select board, or are you still thinking that it would be better to have them present to and create another board?
Well, I think, we probably have a lot of boards, and we probably could do it to the select board. Just us,
think that'd be
not just us, I mean, the select board itself,
Sure,
do the vetting,
I see.
as opposed to a separate committee. I just think it's important that we do vet them, and we do have them come in front of maybe the select board or a committee. If it's easy to do with the select board, we'll do it with the select board.
We do bicycle races. They come and ask us to use the roads.
Yeah, and they don't even have to. That's a courtesy.
A lot of time was spent at town meeting.
Yeah, there really was.
We try to avoid that.
Well, that was one of the subjects that created the charter, in my opinion, was that there was a lot of discussion 5 years ago, 7 years ago about that.
Okay, so the other item, and I'll quickly get this one done, and Sunday we're gonna, go ahead.
Could I just tie that one up? Maybe in July, we bring that up and look at developing like vetting metrics and finalize that. So by the time people start sending requests in, they have guidance. I'd also think that anyone that has received a charitable donation from the town, receive a formal letter updating them on the change in the town's
Okay,
process for approving donations.
Yeah, I mean, those start coming in July and August.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty much everyone's fiscal year.
yeah.
They get right out there and start appealing for donations.
So on the select board agenda in July, or do you want to do that, start that earlier?
I guess maybe Well, June 22nd, July 13th,
July 13th.
does that work?
Sure, that looks good. Just to make sure we do it, that's all.
Yep, I think that's a good idea. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so,
Oh, no.
the only other issue, someday we would probably ought to think about something to do with a sand shed or a salt shed. You know, the day's gonna come, and it may be a 10-year plan, but maybe we should at least start to have some discussions about that.
We did budget money to go into the capital improvement, improvement and repair
Well, at 30,000 went to Moncton Road and see if there's any left over.
for it to start, being dedicated for the shed.
Yeah.
And Junior said we have about 3 years, so.
Yeah,
And I talked to him a couple weeks ago, and
is that
I
right?
just wanted to know what kind of time frame. He told me it was about 3 years for the salt shed and about 10 years for the garage. But it all can be planned and,
And 20 for his retirement?
So if we're talking about moving the salt shed, what would be would there be an idea to maybe put a park and ride there?
Well, some people want that, sure. Not Junior doesn't want it there.
No.
Oh, where the salt
Where it is now,
Oh,
on Route Road.
Brilliant.
Put what? Put a park and ride
Wow.
Put
there?
a park and ride at where the salt shed is now. They'd be able to widen the end of Route Road.
Yeah.
So that even a bus could go in. It could be a bus stop and it could be a park and ride.
Oh, wow.
And they'd be able to go right through, right out and hit the light. Right out Route Road.
And stop for a creamy.
Well, there you go.
Wow. That's really great.
Just a thought.
Frank,
good
good
thought.
thought.
So someplace on here, can we have one of these meetings, we have a little discussion, update ourselves on the shed, see where we're at, so this gets moved a little bit forward?
So maybe invite Junior to that and
Have
anyone
Junior
else?
come,
Anyone else you can think of to come to that?
Can we look at September? It's kind of a sweet spot.
Yeah.
Everyone's back. We have some time before budget season, but it'll also be fresh in our minds.
yep.
So. Is that September 14th?
There were a couple items I just wanted to check to see, and we don't have to discuss it in depth at this point, but just to see whether there's things the select board wants to move ahead with or wants to discuss in the future. First is the changing from lister to assessor and what that involves. I think probably the first step is going to be create a job description, which is going to be similar to the lister job description, but there might be some changes. And then advertise that.
When is the lister's term up?
It's not up this year. It's actually, I think, 21. But, I think,
As soon as there was a
After
replacement.
grievance,
Yeah.
then she wants to be able to leave after grievance.
Yeah.
period.
When's that period?
June sometime.
yeah, early summer.
Okay. So we should look at,
Shortly thereafter. I mean, I'm sure she probably stayed
I
to
would
show
want,
them
I'd
how
want to
you-
have time, so
close
I'd
that
say
up.
April.
yeah.
When do you want to go?
She wants to go after
We're
the
probably
grievance
busy.
period.
Oh,
April
But then she
13th,
probably
maybe
went
take a
after
first
that,
crack
'cause
at,
There's probably some kind of closing stuff or something.
we're gonna have to do a Palmer evaluation.
Oh, yeah, we haven't done one of those in a long time.
Jim,
And then.
you're in for a ride.
that's right.
It's been mentioned that MVP is less expensive than Blue Cross, whether you want me to, I did start to explore it, but I don't know how much you want to potentially explore that, or just, people are happy with Blue Cross, and that's fine, so we could stay with Blue Cross.
Well, I have a priority of number one is the items that were discussed in advisory motion at the end of the town meeting. Any town meeting discussion, we get that over with. And then the lister. And then the town meeting, third, that we've already discussed, we took care of that. And then, well, we need that shoreland permit pretty quickly.
For Lane's Lane?
Yes.
Yep.
That's like the number 4 priority to me. State Park Road, probably by the time we get to that, it's number 5.
Okay.
In my opinion, Moncton Road, and that's only because the weather gets better and it's probably time to start.
Just to let you know, we do have Moncton Road on the March 23rd agenda. The engineers are going to have a new plan, and there's a deadline for applying for the structures grant, so that's on the agenda.
Okay, good, so we're moving along good.
So, Kara, you mentioned the advisory motion thing. That's,
Yes.
just to clarify, that's what Louise has expressed concern when at
Correct,
the
I
end
know
of the
that.
meeting, people raise advisory motions and there's not a lot of people present, and
Correct.
creates kind of an expectation that there's going to be some action.
Could you ask VLCT what the expectations are with advisory motions? Or statutory obligation? Just so that we have guidance from them.
And what would be in order to keep attendance up, what would be the idea? Would an idea be to have the budget be the last? That's what people are there for.
Yeah, that'd be a good technique. Save the best for last. You run the risk of adding up irritations. I thought having it first and then having any outside articles that the select board didn't want be extra or additional options from like kind of a menu standpoint, like this is the most important.
I'm talking all budget things. That's
All
all-
budget related,
All
okay.
budget related items. I think our main budget should be after all the other things, except for any other budget articles that would add to our
The
original
budget.
budget.
Got
So
it.
that way, your article for, like we had this year, the article for the budget, the trails, and the donations, those 3 things would still be on, but they would be on the bottom.
Yeah, do you know if we have total latitude on the order of articles?
Pretty sure.
Okay.
Just a thought.
Yeah.
You're thinking good.
Well, doing advisory motions first, you have more people there to vote.
Yeah,
Definitely more representative.
Right, that's what,
that's the idea.
right. I did a little debriefing with a couple of my friends about town meeting. I saw them sitting in the audience, so I called them, and one would like to be part of a committee to talk about all the things that go along, just forming a committee of some sort, and I actually would love to be part of it. It's part of the reason why I joined the select board. If I was allowed, I'd love to have some opportunity to try to grow it with our, and part of it was 10 years ago, so many new young people moved here to Charlotte, a lot in East Charlotte. And I really felt as we were voting the charter that so many people didn't know what they had, that direct democracy and the beauty of the town, because they're their careers and have to work. And so I'd love to, I talked to one of my friends today, and she gave me all kinds of ideas with the fact that it could be a Grange event. We could teach people who want to come and have some potluck about how come town meeting was typically on Tuesday during the day, and just some history about town meeting, and then come to, a consensus of what people really does. Do we want to try first? Do we want to try the traditional Tuesday first and the following year, Saturday or Monday night? Because there's varying opinions on Monday night. Saturday. But I know that there's also a strong interest, and I just think that there's a lot of people that haven't had time to be reminded of what they have before, we go on too much longer, trying to figure out how to bring people together. And babysitting was a really big issue.
Yeah, I think that was a good suggestion you made, Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing, yeah.
I think this one has so much interest on the select board, and I think it'd be great if we could
I'll
just
do it.
keep,
I totally
and
agree.
bring people to the select board meetings, even if it's every other meeting.
I love it. Yep.
We keep working on
And we
that.
should stay right on it, yes, because Carolyn will come and Judy.
Yeah, and I'd love for this to be,
Yep.
the biggest town meeting the town has ever had.
Totally
So
agree.
what's the agenda item that you want on the agenda, or?
Town meeting discussion.
Town meeting.
Moving forward, how to move forward with town meeting or something, or,
Town meeting improvements?
Improvements.
oh, there you go. But she actually came up with like a Charlotte trivia town meeting future, a mailing. So how much little trivia gets new people to know where a park is or a trail. It was really, this is why the parade is so big, because you ask a couple people. And
Right.
there's quite a wonderful suggestion.
Brainstorming.
I want to keep everybody, remind everybody that there's 80% of the population in Charlotte is between 25 and 65, and that's the age that you work.
Yeah.
Just keep that in mind.
Totally. So
80%.
Saturday would,
All right?
Yeah.
I'm totally open to whatever.
Dean, if town meeting were done on a Saturday, town meeting day, does that mean the voting is done on Saturday?
I would think it would be all done the same day. That's my, yeah.
And so then the school budget voting would be done by ballot on that Saturday as well?
I believe
Oh,
so.
good question.
Okay,
Yep.
so we would have to liaise with the school to have that prepared and timed right,
Right.
warning-wise.
Right.
Okay. Bill?
So I was talking to Lane when he came in about town meeting, and he mentioned that there's been studies done as far as the best days and times to have a town meeting. And I know a lot of the local communities now do it on Monday night. Do you know Dean, do you know what study Lane was referring to? And
I know when the committee was looking at it, they pulled resources from, or pulled information from various resources. I think the League of Cities and Towns looked at it. That's probably the most recent.
I was wondering if maybe you just want to do like a front porch forum survey or something. saying,
We will. We will do that.
What do you recommend?
Yes.
Because by the response you get, rather than people necessarily coming to a meeting to talk about it, because not a lot of people obviously come.
That will be part of how our work plan will go forward, is that we'll put out a survey or something along that line, absolutely. It's up to everybody.
Good.
So just to be clear, you're not at this point interested in exploring MVP, and not to say that you can at some point, but.
Seems low on the
Okay.
priority list.
And affordable housing fund,
I'd like to talk, can we talk about that, like June, July, August, or something? Or, I don't care, sometime in the,
No matter what, I'd like to talk about it,
Yeah.
at least early enough so that if something does have to go on the budget, that we have time to put it on it.
or just.
Start it in July?
talking about, yeah, or even
Yeah.
sooner. That's been a tricky.
Jim, do you have other
No, that's good. Thank you.
priorities? Oh,
Thank
yeah,
you.
please.
Yep.
And this list is completely, well, not completely, but largely flexible. So if priorities come up, let's look at changing them as we go.
So the other thing that I'd like to accomplish is to have a notebook with information about each of our town lands, whether it be the beach or the park or Blue Flame or Thompson's Point, and just a brief history, what we do
I mean,
on it.
for some of these, there are committees for them, so maybe that's something we could ask the committees to try to spearhead
Uh-huh,
At that committee meeting,
at their committee meetings.
oh, yeah.
May
Right.
11th.
And I also thought it could be a grad challenge kind of opportunity. Or even just put that on Front Porch Farm. We're looking to create a town lands book. And
Right.
so we'd have a map and you'd have blah, blah, blah. I figured whoever's doing it, I'd end up getting to see it. And if I had any more questions, they could,
Pictures.
definitely pictures, yeah.
I wonder if it's something that would interest the high school.
Mhm. Well, they have this thing called grad challenge, so
Yeah.
maybe,
You know, maybe, this is historical, basically, isn't it? That's what you're looking at, historical.
Are
and
they,
then
are they
land.
still doing grad challenge?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm
I know they
wondering,
got Rise at the end of the year.
I actually wondered.
Yeah,
if
what
they-
at the end of it?
Rise. It's
So no more grad
something totally different.
I think there's still grad challenge. Was last year? I could ask. Find out.
Cause the end of last year, the school went a whole different way with Rise, and I'd have to look at what it all means, but I don't know what the program is. I have to look at it. I know it was something totally different, and I didn't know if it had replaced grad challenge,
Find out.
but it might not
possible.
have. They might do both.
Well, I'll just be working on that as a little bit, like as we visit them, that'll,
And you want site visits as you started last year to different town properties scheduled?
yeah, we didn't finish.
Yeah, well, we almost
Because
got some.
Blue Flame is really going to have to be addressed, the parking and the discussion and the whole development of that area.
Solar panels.
The solar panels.
Oh, there's a pumpkin patch proposal too that came up, yeah.
Ah,
Okay, yeah, I had that on May's agenda, just put the site visits again.
The pumpkin patch?
The what?
The pumpkin patch?
no site.
At the old dump? No? That was one of the lease proposals
Oh, right,
a
right.
couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Can we do anything on top of the dump? I
Can
mean, that's a question. I don't know.
be, yeah, it is sealed.
It's sealed, so I'm trying to figure out how deep is it sealed and can anything be done above it?
I think that was
what
one of the
would you do on
concerns.
top of it?
I don't
Oh, he's
know.
talking pumpkin patch.
You can go sliding.
It wasn't approved at the time.
I was involved putting some athletic field on a landfill,
Wow.
only to find out that we had to disband the whole thing for the percolation and so forth, so
Oh, yeah.
go slow on that.
Oh, there's not
Go
much
slow.
happening on there.
Go slow.
So don't bring out the rototiller yet.
No, just go slow on it.
Just a question.
Okay, let's
I think I'm good.
have a relook at this work plan next meeting, updated, so everyone can have time to think about it, maybe 15 minutes to review it.
Oh, and the other thing that was brought to my attention, and Dean and I talked about it, is our website calendar. When someone pulls it up, right now they can only see maybe planning, energy, and select board. And we're hoping that all committees would put their days, their meetings at least 6 months in advance or something. But that way people could plan, they'd start to learn to look there. So we're gonna work on that, Dean, as we,
Maybe part of the all committees meeting?
yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
good?
Add that to it.
Energy's really good. They do have that whole year
Yeah.
planned ahead. So if we could get 6 months out of the others, it would be helpful to the general public.
Are all the committees putting their agendas on the town agendas?
I mean, I think that's partly what Kara's talking about.
Well, yeah, well, so I don't know how far they'd have to go on putting their agenda. That's up to another night of discussion if we wanted. It would mostly really be about recreations meeting Tuesday nights at 6, energy, planning, library.
I think, well, we have an agendas calendar on the website. I'm just wondering if that would, I mean, that's where I go to look to see.
Does it have all the committee meeting, all the committees?
No, it
That's what I'm
doesn't.
saying.
It's got the energy committee, they put theirs on,
It's not,
Right.
but
We
there's,
want the whole- we
there's,
want
you
the
know,
whole
the
thing.
planning commission, the zoning board, the select board has theirs on, but I don't know if there's, I mean, I don't think usually the West Village wastewater's on there.
Well, because Christina's on the committee.
See,
I
every
haven't,
one
I
of
don't
them
think there's
has a
a
date,
recreation agenda on there. I haven't seen one of those.
I personally don't care either way on that, whatever.
I mean, it's just
sense,
easier
but-
for me when I log on, I go on to the, I go onto the town website and I wanna see what committees are having meetings.
You want to see the agenda?
What they're doing.
Yeah, well, not necessarily the
Oh.
agenda as much as at least knowing there is a meeting. I mean,
That's-
first of all, know there is a meeting. I mean, it'd
Right.
be nice if the agenda was on there. But, I mean, the main thing is to know that there is a meeting so
That's what
that,
I'm getting at.
I
We could
can.
even put the
so that-
Grange
So that
meeting.
not only I know, but so that anybody in town, if they decide they wanna go to a Trails Committee
That's
meeting,
exactly right.
they can look on there and say, oh, well, there's a Trails Committee meeting tomorrow. I say, well, great, then I can go to it and I can find out
And
what's
then it's
going
got to
on.
be consistent every month. It's got to stay the same. When the committee picks their date and time for the year, that's what it is. So other people can plan around that. So that'll just be
Bill's got a question.
very helpful going forward.
Bill?
I think it's a great idea. You know, I check the calendar, and I know other people also do too. And you know, it is frustrating sometimes when the agenda for a subcommittee isn't listed. And also, when meetings are canceled, it's important to get that out there. We've had a couple of planning commission meetings that were canceled at the last minute, and they weren't posted in time. So people came down here, and there was no meeting going on. So that's another thing. But I want to use this also to thank Dean for publicly publishing the agendas for the select board on Front Porch Forum. I think it's really helpful to get the agenda out in front of people rather than having to make them click multiple times to try and find it. And I haven't approached Pete yet, but I'd like to see him do that with the planning commission at some point.
Actually, that was Bill's idea. I thought it was a good one, so I did it. Just copy and paste onto the.
Yeah.
And it's still one of the shorter posts.
And it's great that he also publishes the link to the whole packet, rather than having us try and find stuff through, you know, the website, which I'm sure, I'm not the only person who spent a lot of time trying to find things. Thank you.
Great. Moving on, next agenda item is the 7 o'clock item, moved to 8 o'clock. The employee performance reviews, the final approval process. We have a Town of Charlotte Employee Performance Appraisal Process 2020 form in front of us. People have a chance to take a look at this.
I would actually love to meet with the senior center director. We hardly ever spent any time with her. And we're talking about working from home and whatnot. I'd love to.
So you'd like, well, there's a select board liaison on the review committee?
Yeah, we had changed that. It was the select board at one point, and it got changed. It got changed. I don't know, it was just, sounds
So
like we need
I
to talk
mean,
with her.
You could also do a one-on-one or a subcommittee of the select board, just kind of, I mean, is that, sounds like, you know, I think you're, maybe I'm wrong, but it sounds like you want to just kind of explore different issues, not necessarily performance issues.
Well, I would ask her about the extra hours at home, or just talk to her about all of that. Why, she's teaching us what it takes to run that. She's the one running it, so maybe we should just.
Are you saying you'd like to do that more than annually? Because this is the performance of each employee of the town of Charlotte will be evaluated annually.
Yeah.
So.
No, not just one time is fine.
Okay, and that would be.
And in this case, it falls in line with the working from home discussion, right?
Yeah, so the process, we have each employee will fill out a self-appraisal using a town's form.
Yeah.
Then the employee's immediate supervisor in that third column will review the employee's self-appraisal and provide feedback in writing on the form. Then that review committee, so in the case of the senior center director, that would be the senior center board as a whole and the select board liaison, so that review committee would meet with that employee individually and discuss those evaluations, looking at both their self-appraisal and their immediate supervisor's feedback. And so that piece would be once a year.
I think the select board should be in there somehow.
The whole select board.
Or whoever wants to, yes.
Okay.
At least one time, at least this time. How long has she worked for us, Dean?
It's been about 2 years. She started January, so.
January of,
2 Januaries ago. No, January.
yeah, I mean, we don't have to.
No, I think it's a good idea, and I support it. The senior center liaison is Louise.
Yeah.
But if we added you to that, then you and Louise could join the board as
Okay,
part of
very
the
good.
normal process. Are people okay with that?
So just say additional select board member.
Well, this way we can maintain this, the select board liaison or liaisons, and that is Carrie and Louise,
Okay,
or the review committee with the senior center board.
gotcha.
It doesn't have to be all the time or every year. I just want to.
Yeah, this would
It's
be
important.
Yeah, this would be once a
Select
year,
board is
and I think as a liaison, you can check in at any point
Sure.
with both the senior center board and or any employee.
I don't know, it's just one of my thoughts when I was
With
looking this
Daryl,
over.
how come nobody from the zoning board is on that one?
Daryl mostly works for the planning commission. I guess occasionally if there's an appeal that involves the zoning administrator, then Daryl does review or does work for the zoning board. You could add zoning board actually you're already on it as a select board member.
Well, I know, but I mean, if we're trying to do a list that lasts after I'm not here,
Okay.
I mean, it should be, I think it should be it should be the chairman of the zoning board for both Daryl and Daniel.
Or in place of you, a vice chair, or
Yeah, and.
Yeah, what if he hasn't got appointed to the zoning board?
It should be just, it should be basic, should be general, not.
right.
So like for Daniels, it says ZBA rep. You would
Yeah.
just have that for
I
Daryl
would
as
say,
well?
I would say, yeah, you can write rep or chair either way. Rep would probably would work probably best.
I could say chair or vice chair.
Well, if it's rep, then it's up to the board to decide
Then
who
the
to
board can
send.
decide who does it. I think that would be great.
ZBA rep.
Yep.
Short straw.
Yep. Well, sometimes you get somebody who wants to be part of it, and then sometimes you have to force somebody to be part of it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
On the library director and staff, there are no select board or liaisons. Is there a reason for that?
There is. The library system, it has a statutory authority separate from select boards that the state designates. And
It's part of their MOU, isn't it?
yeah, it's part of their independent authority from the state. So what some towns do, like Charlotte, is voluntarily weave their budget into the general fund, but that doesn't have to happen. in other towns, the library budget is a separate article, a standalone article that is permitted by the state. At the same time, when 4 years ago, when the select board came up with a new pay policy, the library board of directors voluntarily participated to have that be an equitable townwide process, even though they really weren't required to. So there's been cooperation both ways, but on the evaluation process to date, the status quo has been that they evaluate and manage their employees. And then the select board verifies and sets their wages with the pay grid. So it's kind of that check and balance. Craig?
One other comment I make. This is the first time since the formation of a recreation function here in town that the Recreation Commission is not involved in the review or rating process. And it's of considerable concern for a number of members of the commission. I just want you to know that you do what you're going to do. It's an issue.
Well, to speak to that a little, I think it's been like this at least for a year. And I'd also welcome any feedback at any time to come from commissioners and not have to wait for the annual review. So if there is feedback, please feel free to offer it.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. Let's see. Daniel?
Did you want to participate in Peggy's review also?
And I'm sorry, who's?
Yeah, Peggy at the senior center.
Yeah, I just think it would be really, as I'd love to touch base with them and.
Okay.
Well, she already is. We added Carrie as a select board liaison with Louise.
Oh, for the senior center?
Yep.
Okay.
So in that way, if we just put an parentheses S after liaison,
Okay.
we'll. Library staff.
Worked well in the past.
Oh my God. Do you have every iteration of this?
Underline strikeout.
1, 2, 3, 4. So this process has been edited 5 times in the last 6 years.
6 times.
After now?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This will be the 6th.
Yeah. Okay. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the employee performance appraisal process as amended.
Second?
Yep.
I'll second that.
More discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thanks.
How are we doing? Okay. The 8:15, discussion of respective roles of Recreation Commission and Recreation Director. I just want to kind of preface, Carrie has done some legwork here, and will probably take it over. I just want to preface that this is really going to be a discussion about the positions and not personnel. And if it seems to move away from talking about the positions and the structure, then I'll just interrupt and remind people this is about the positions and the structure. You want to talk about?
Well, it was brought to my attention that Winslow Ladue had started, and I'm not sure why it hadn't finished. But we have, and Dean, you made copies for everyone? And it just really looked like this was a really good, clean document with the fact that it says activities coordinator.
Wait till he passes.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, it's bigger font.
Yeah,
You want one?
sure, I'll have one. We might as well have more paper.
Dean, do you know when this was made?
I
2000.
got it from the budget.
So here's the date, job description, comparison, 9/5/07.
9/5/2007?
And this is when they were it seems to me like it's when they were starting to move from, I guess when the school must have come over and needed more of a activities, sports coordinator.
Well, it came about because the school there was so much per student for funding for the school, and there was a limit on the state funding. So if you spent more per student than what was allowed, it cost you more. So what they did is they moved the recreation out of the school budget into the town budget.
To save town's money.
To save town money that would have gone for more into the school budget.
And this was really the birth of recreation departments across the state.
Yes.
So just a quick question, new member of the select board. This comes in front of us because
The recreation department's been struggling for a year or so with not having clear direction, I think, am I right? And we've switched over to a director instead of a coordinator, which changed some situations, certain areas that you are in charge of or oversee.
So the job descriptions were overlapping.
So this is a document that's gonna clarify what,
Well, I guess,
To start.
To
to
start.
start, okay.
and
It's
this
a really
is,
pretty comprehensive start.
so 3 years ago, the town decided to change from a rec coordinator to a rec director.
Yeah.
We had to go back to the pay process and the job description because responsibilities were increased and the program had grown. And then the select board added more responsibilities, mainly managing the staff at the beach.
Okay.
So doing all that, we went through this Palmer survey, which is a standardized way of assessing the difficulty and responsibility of any given job on earth through a standardized metric. It's kind of an exhaustive process.
Sounds like it.
It was.
And then that allows a point system to be allocated, which then can be put on the employee pay grid, so that we can determine what the pay rate should be based on a job description. That was about 3 years ago. When that happened, there were changes to the job description that overlapped with historical roles and responsibilities that have been done by the Recreation Commission, which is an all-volunteer commission.
Gotcha.
Before the coordinator was doing that, or before the director's job description was made. Then, recently, so the last year has been spent trying to create a way to have clearer roles and responsibilities by choice of the recreation commissioners in a way that would work smoothly with the rec director's job description that the select board came up with. And then this newest document this is the first time I'm looking at it and that we're looking at it at a select board meeting, was developed way before that by a Charlotte Select Board in 2007. And so that's what we're looking at for the first time tonight.
Okay, thank you.
You've probably looked at this more than anyone.
Well, I just thought that Winslow did a really thorough job. The only thing I didn't have was the mission statement. Not that I don't think it mattered that much, but
So this looks
I
like
guess
they went from, there was a change in the old job description and the new job description, but still from a coordinator to a coordinator?
where we would put director in the new now.
Or we'd have a third column, right?
Sure.
Or you're saying take this right column, move it over to the left, and then make a new column that says rec director, and any changes that come with it?
You could do 3. You could do the old, so you know what you're coming from, and the new, and the really new. I don't know, it just seemed like it was very clear to read what the different duties were, and each on the third column that we have here, it gives you small changes, what the new changes are. I don't know, Nicole, what did you think of this when you saw it? Is this, or I don't know what the right question to ask you is, but
I have been just going through a bunch of old minutes from the rec commission. And so we had found this, and I just thought that, just something, just different thoughts for everyone to look at, just to see that, it's just been something that the position has been evolving and recreation has been evolving, so.
Right.
Just some insight as we,
I looked at this and thought that if we had had this 8 months ago, we would be a lot farther, a lot less words would have been said, a lot less time spent if we had had this to work from, because this is a really good work document, in my opinion. And now, with all of you, everybody's gonna have their own opinions, and it's just, now is the time we have to move forward with the new season.
Well, it's interesting too, on the hours, went from 15 hours a week to 18 hours a week in 2007, and you're at 35 hours?
That was my question.
30.
Oh, 30, yeah. I had that same question. I couldn't remember. And I did take from the last meeting that everybody wanted a update, which you started doing just before that meeting and have since done it, and the feedback's been good. I never know what's politically correct. You have to email back every time, thank you, or that part's hard to figure out, I think, but. So I'd like to recommend that we use something very similar to this, and at least gives us something to start from and we can talk about and add to, but I think we should implement something very quickly. It's time to move on off the subject.
Yeah, I think we'll plan something at every select board meeting. We'll dedicate 20 to 30 minutes to moving this issue forward until we come up to something that works for the season. But with the goal of having something finalized by the end of
Beach
April.
season. Okay, April, end of April.
Yeah, I think 3 more meetings, we
I
can
like a time frame.
get a lot done in 6 weeks.
Yeah. That's great.
If it takes 8 weeks, that's 8 weeks, but certainly been working at this for almost the better part of a year.
That gives the commission a chance to see what it is we're looking at
Yeah, I think it'd be
to
good.
do, and we're gonna work with that, and gives us something all to be on the same page and work with.
When is the next commission meeting?
Tomorrow night.
So hope maybe this is something that you could bring to the commission meeting, and and then, have comments available. I think what we'll try and do is have something of a similar format to kind of look at the changes that have happened from coordinator to director, so that that can kind of be looked at in apples to apples, and then have, comment period on that. And then keep moving forward.
Great.
8:30.
We're hoping to sort out, one of the other big issues on the agenda tomorrow night is to sort out the issue of funding for athletic programs at the gymnasium school, because we've got a number of members or participants in our athletic programs who cannot afford the structure of fees that's being proposed.
That is concerning to the select board as well. One of the issues we're working on is moving forward, working with the district on a global MOU. That's not just about elections or not just about facility usage fees. It's going to be a longer term discussion that we'll be bringing Nicole with us on, since she did independently negotiated favorable facility terms, but we're really looking, for a long-term solution that the town can count on. And so I think, the rec department's going to have to be front and center. As those funding crunches become apparent, my personal preference is to figure out a way to buffer any bow shock from that, even if it means dipping into unexpected expenses for a year or two. So if you can come up with proposals of, any shortfalls that are unexpected from this timing issue that came down on us from the district, then the select board can consider, other sources of funding to keep the programming as successful as it's been. Yeah. So, and this is, cabin fever, so the more we can get people out and active, the better. I mean, it's a really important exercise.
And a lot of folks just can't afford to fork out the money.
Right.
And they're benefiting from these programs.
Yeah.
Health-wise.
Right, I completely agree. Right.
We don't have scholarships for that sort of program, do we?
Well,
Is it?
yeah.
It wouldn't work.
Yeah, there is a system for scholarships, but it's based on the traditional fee schedules, and this is all new to us.
Okay. So be it. So we're gonna work on this for the next few weeks.
Yeah, I'd say really schedule the next 4 meetings.
So,
So, yeah.
just looking at March 23rd, do you think the agreement with the district, that's at 5:30, is that likely to not take up a half hour in terms of plugging this in for that time period, or?
No,
I guess where do you want to fit this in?
do you have a draft of
Yeah, it's on the table.
March 23rd?
Oh, we don't need the 6:15 one, do we?
Nope. Yeah, we can scratch 6:15. And it can be 6:02, 6:05,
Okay.
6:05 to 6:30. Kind of dovetails. Do we want to switch it? Have the 5:30 be recreation?
It's up to you.
Nicole, is one easier? Or they're both? And for rec, is it easier to make a 5:30 than a 6? 6 is better? Okay, then let's keep it 6:05 for rec. Is it later even better? Is later better?
Doesn't matter, we just need to pick up by 5 and
Whoa, that's a lot of interviews.
Well, depends on.
I guess the other, kind of as part of this, for groups that have had bicycle
Thanks, Nicole.
events, like Kelly Brush Ride or National Multiple Sclerosis, do you always want them to come back every time if there's no change?
Let's not change anything, that's generally been spearheaded through rec. So let's just, yes, I would lean towards leaving the way it has been.
Okay.
Any other thoughts on that?
So who reviews those applications now?
Select board, yeah, select board. Yeah, historically it was recreation.
Yep.
Reviewing those, it's kind of migrated to the select board.
By choice?
I think by the select board's choice.
Yes, and they would come to us and then
Yeah.
give a presentation, and then they would
Endorse or not,
Right.
to the board.
yeah.
Is that, the last meeting, we talked about things that the rec commission enjoys doing and wants to do. Is that something that,
I think so.
Sure.
Should we talk about that tomorrow night?
We've got a community perspective and a variety of different takes on the issues, so.
And we have to make sure our conversation was well open with Nicole. See what else was going on at the beach at that time. Or maybe does she have like a master list of schedule going on, the things going on at the beach, or?
I'm not sure.
Okay, we have to run that by her, I guess, so. Okay. Just so we don't have major overlaps.
Just pick up the phone and call her. Just pick up the phone and call her. She'll give you everything that you want. Walk into her office and ask her, and she'll give you all the information.
Are these all the applicants for?
No, there's some on the 13th and some on the 27th. Not as many.
for the committee?
For the different committees?
You tried to lump committees, though.
Yeah,
Like all the applicants for one committee
if
are,
it's convenient. I mean, some of them
Can't
were not
make it.
able to, yeah, some of them were not able to, but
Yeah, it was Matt, can't make it that night.
Matt,
Sucker?
Zucker.
right. Yep, he told me, I think it's April 27th, or maybe April 13th.
You're not up?
No.
Okay.
Okay, I was-
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Greg. Thanks,
I
Greg.
think I was up last year.
Say hello, we haven't met.
I don't remember you appointed me.
What's that?
So I think I was up last year. I think. Don't remember you appointed me. I walked
Oh,
All right.
I think this is a long handshake. I'll take my hand right off on me.
Greg? Don't say that.
Could be careful.
Better be putting up.
I do think it's important that there's gonna be some growing pains with the district and the way that they're charging for facility usage, but I think we should insulate the townspeople's use of recreation and recreating from the monetary pain of that, so it's.
So we wouldn't.
They set a new fee schedule to use the school
Yeah.
that didn't exist before,
Yeah.
and it's more expensive than it used to be. And they're breaking it out by activity, where,
Before it was a standard amount for the year.
and it was just kind of historically came about like, hey, could you help pay for
Yeah.
maintaining the fields because
Sure,
you run
yeah.
a soccer jamboree with 1,000 kids one day. So then, oh yeah, the town said, yeah, we'll kick back some money to help with mowing and fertilizer. But now we have a fee schedule that, for instance, for pickleball, I think is somewhere $2,000 to play pickleball in the school, which was not even on our radar last budget cycle in the fall. So I just, my goal is we just asked Greg, but hopefully they come to us and tell us what their constraints are. And the goal would be to allow Charlotters to continue to recreate at the same degree with the programs that we have and figure out a way to pay for it until we come up with an agreement with the district and budget.
Maybe Someday you should have your own building.
This might be financially viable.
I've already talked about that.
Well, that can be on the work plan, you know, if we
You know, we
want
really
to
should.
look at that.
We're talking about,
We should.
we're talking about a rec facility.
We should, just for the fun of it, why
Just
not?
kind of digging in there just a little bit.
Yeah.
You know?
You got
Yeah,
a board
yeah.
that's willing to look
Well,
at
you
it.
want to look at it
Yes.
early summer?
Oh,
Sure.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Very much so.
I agree.
Dean, can we add that to the work plan?
We'll
like
get
popular
everybody
vote.
talking.
We got a senior center, we got a library, we might still have a rec center.
That's right.
A lot of towns do.
Be great.
And then we're gonna need, just so you know, a bus shuttle from East Charlotte to West Charlotte to go to all those library, the rec center.
Some rickshaws count?
I'm actually thinking,
Some pedal power?
yeah,
Purchase an electric car to go, so we can plug it in out here.
Yeah, we do.
there we go.
An
No,
electric
an
shuttle.
Electric bus, electric bus.
Electric minibus.
In Europe, see, I could drive a minibus, I couldn't drive a big
With ag
bus.
plates?
A VW bus.
Ah, you could get electric VW. Okay, minutes. The custom and I think statute is if you were not present or not on the board, you don't vote.
Abstain from all that.
So the minutes from February 10th, do we have a quorum present? Myself,
I gotta look.
Frank, and Carrie. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from February 10th as amended, as may be amended.
And
Second.
Louise had some comments that I put on the table.
This will be closed.
Okay.
They have to do with the February 10th one?
Yep. Is there a second?
Yes. That may be amended.
I'll speak for Louise, line 71. I'm not sure. Dean, do you see what that is?
I don't actually have, those are the ones.
What did she say it was?
It kind of looks like an apostrophe, but I don't think it's not grammatically an apostrophe. Can you see what that is?
Are they quotes?
Yeah, that doesn't seem to warrant an apostrophe there.
Would it be quotes?
Said quote volunteer. Next would be line 90.
There's too many ands in there.
Line 98. Who is the liaison from the select board?
To recreation?
Yeah.
Carrie.
Now I am.
Carrie is
I
now.
wasn't then, though.
That seems to be more of a comment or question outside the minutes. I mean, that's not, that
Okay.
wasn't being discussed.
Got it.
Well, it's the liaison between, so he's, they're saying Bill is the liaison between the commission and the director. So that should be, that's a fine statement, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Louise wants us to consider striking line 103 through 108 and ending that paragraph with the word Bill. I think the statutory requirement for minutes is that all motions are recorded and all agenda items are recorded as discussed. The level of detail is up to the discretion of the board.
Yep.
So I'd be fine with striking that as requested by
What, 103
Louise?
to 108?
yeah.
Why is that?
Well, I think Louise thinks it's not appropriate in the minutes or
Well, there's a
necessary.
heck of a lot of other things that really aren't
I don't think
appropriate.
that limits striking other things. But Louise has asked that to be struck
Well,
if people want to or not. It's up to the three of us.
No, actually, as I was reading that before you spoke, I was thinking, well, that's exactly the best way to deal with Nicole is to email or call her or come in and see her.
So
And just what she said she would want. She said
no consensus to strike it?
I don't want it struck
Okay.
unless we go through the rest of it as a fine tooth comb.
I think I meant iterative, but let me just look up the
It could be.
definition.
It
I'm
could
pretty
be.
sure I meant it, even
It
as I
could be
reread
either.
it.
It could be either. I mean, especially when you say going, every meeting we'll work on,
Yeah. I meant iterative.
yeah.
Any other comments from Louise? That's it. Anyone else? Any more discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
You have me,
Yeah.
you have me
I
abstaining
got that,
from
Matt,
this.
Frank, and Kerry.
Yeah, good, thank you.
Three of us are here make a motion.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of February 17th as may be amended.
Second. Again, Louise has one comment to consider. Remember, line 115, Dean Block, and she wants to add in a member of the Energy Committee?
I wasn't there, so I don't know.
Oh, yes, that's true. Since the last Energy Committee meeting, the Energy Committee has taken on that lift,
Right.
so they'll be coming up with a draft. But that was discussed, so adding in Dean Block and a member of the Energy Committee. Not the whole Energy Committee. That's what was said,
Okay.
yeah. Any other edits?
Do we have times? So we went into executive session.
As far as when we came out? We adjourned at 8.
Right, but there's no vote to come out of executive session. And there's no time that we went into executive session.
There's the motion, but not, do we have to have a time? We usually do.
We usually have a time,
Dean?
but there's no motion to come out of executive session. I'm assuming it was a combo one for the adjournment.
Yeah, I think it was. Can we add that?
Motion to come out?
Yep,
Motion to come out and to adjourn.
Yep.
on line 151.
Yep.
Release that.
Thank you.
Good.
All those in favor of the minutes as amended, indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? One abstention. And the minutes of February 24th, 2020, make a motion to approve as may be amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, now I can see who is there. Who's Wiley?
Who's what?
The new report, I think the reporter
Wiley
for the
was here
Citizen.
tonight.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yep, reporter.
How do you pronounce Wiley's last name?
I haven't asked, but I'll, ready?
Like the railroad? Let's see. Adjustments.
Has anybody asked the school how parking and the security or any of that went? Did you talk to Naomi or talk to anybody?
I haven't, no.
Boy, I'm going to the school tomorrow, maybe I will.
Oh.
I'll ask Naomi how it worked. Oh, actually, could I have a list of the town lands sometime, Dean?
Sure.
That's on page, line 90. I mean, even just the names, just so I can have something to get started with. Thank you.
No, you don't have my kiddo crying in there? Nothing like an ear infection.
I thought he was laughing because he was like,
Oh, that's right. You said you all were sick. Yeah.
All those in favor
Are we just about?
indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
and I just put Maze for Town meeting on the table, which you don't have to approve tonight because it probably will take some time.
Yeah, can we pick it up next meeting?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. I provided both a clean, all edits incorporated and then also an underlined strikeout. I think Lynn had some challenges initially, but, or not initially, but towards the end, there was different motions and anyway, you can see. I think it turned out okay.
Yeah, it's pretty late. So we'll take that up next meeting?
Nope, sounds good. Is that it?
Oh, man. Must be a new year. Yes.
Select board update.
Ah, yes.
Oh, that's gonna take half an hour. No.
That's good.
Well, one of them was the train station, which I said looked really good. The other one, how about the health center? Dean, what have you heard about the health center? Is there anything?
Well,
or do we know anything?
The wastewater committee is meeting on the 16th, and they're gonna take a first crack at the heavy lifting that's next, which is a fee schedule. I'm gonna get with Dave Marshall.
I was just gonna say, did we appoint a new committee, or is it the same committee?
Standing committee,
Is Fritz on the committee?
they have their own terms.
They have 2-year terms. There is a vacancy. Well, 2 of the members are up for reappointment, I think, but Fritz has indicated he might be willing to serve, but I told him he should submit, something. I mean, he said verbally, so once he does,
And our new liaison is Louise.
yes, to Village, yeah.
And she has a lot of experience with utility fee scheduling.
And do all of those people that are on the committee now want to keep going, like Christina or Is she the one
Yeah, I
that's-
mean, I think their hope is that it'll be winding up fairly, soon, but within maybe 6 months,
6? 2?
2, hopefully.
What? Wow.
Well,
And what about the health
on us.
center? Have they,
I haven't heard anything.
have we
Yeah,
heard
I think
anything?
that would be in planning. We haven't had to approve any curb cut yet,
No,
so.
No.
that has to go through planning, it's also gotta go through zoning. And there's been nothing.
Put a sketch plan in yet? I don't
They
think so.
did do a sketch plan for across the road.
They did?
Yep.
How long ago was that? Must be before you were on.
No, I haven't seen a sketch
Yeah,
plan
it
for
might have been
that.
just before you were on.
It must be before.
Yep.
Yeah, it's been, yeah,
And they probably had to have it removed.
well, part of that had to do with the availability of septic, so.
Oh, yeah.
And the other part had to do with, the road, parking. Cause there was discussion on town parking being provided on part of this, and so it was a pretty extensive plan.
There is an issue on parking with the senior center and the fire department.
Well, yeah, because half of the senior center's
It's a
parking,
problem.
it belongs to the fire department, so.
Because those trucks have to get out the back end of that building, and sometimes it's a challenge.
Right. but the-
Fortunately, we don't use them that often, but the point is we have to be available
Well,
to
not
get
only
out
that,
through
but the
it.
senior center entrance is totally on the fire station's lot.
So,
That's it,
Charge us for rent.
but that's another story.
yes.
But this one had proposed to have extra parking in it, so, had parking, and then they had to deal with septic, and had to deal with the whole site plan. And then they need conditional use approval, I believe. So, there's process.
Did we get the dead trees taken out of the hedgerow over there?
Senior center?
It's
Yeah.
actually the fire department.
The cedar.
What Frank is saying, it's actually
Those
fire
cedar
department.
trees.
Ah.
And all,
Yeah, the
There's
fire
that.
department's property goes
some trees that really need to be
towards the
taken out
senior
of that
center,
cedar
a few
hedge.
parking
It's
spaces
compromising
in the
hedge,
senior center.
But nobody's
So
listening to that.
that's why I was saying that the senior center really doesn't own a lot of parking, but it doesn't have the use of a lot of parking. Cause it doesn't have, even with the help of the fire department, they don't have enough parking.
And why did that ever get like that?
Well, it has expanded. I mean, it has grown. Just
What's
not-
that?
The
But why
senior
did they
center.
not give
The
them
use
enough?
has, the use has grown.
No, yeah, they didn't give them enough parking to begin with,
I'm sure they gave them what was required.
but not a growth plan.
Can I ask, and I'm not, fine if nothing happens, but I didn't know if you wanted to proceed with communication regarding coronavirus, or just let it drift for now?
I think just for now, everyone's
Yeah.
tied into I hate to get in the way of good
Okay.
information.
Yep.
And if pertinent information comes out, this is my take, from the
Yeah.
health department, that we can copy and paste that on the Front Porch Forum as a message from the select board and
And-
refer people to,
And I think I would rely mostly on the fire department, hopefully to have their input and what they recommend too on what can be put out.
I think the rescue department, not the fire department, but I think I'd have them, the point person,
Right,
the rescue.
the rescue.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, as
They-
opposed to
They know about
the
it
select
more than
board
we
coming out
do.
with something.
They
I'd
know
stay
about
away
it,
from
they
that.
know about it more than we do, and they're
Yeah.
up on it, and
That's why they're
they get the
here.
updates, they know the process.
It's constantly talked about all the time
Yeah.
over there now, so.
I think I'd go by the fire department and the
And Rob is
rescues,
real
and the
good at
rescues lead on
managing
this.
that. Yeah. So I know he's putting some tomorrow on Porch Forum.
Fritz just submitted a letter of interest to be on the wastewater committee.
Forward it to me.
It's official, okay.
I could put him on the March 23rd agenda as another interview. right?
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
He's on.
Yep. Yep. And send him an email inviting him to come in. To interview.
Hey, you should have asked him about July too.
July what?
For our site visit in July.
On the lake? So we typically approve warrants to pay bills while we're here. If you have time, you can also do it by coming in, but it's better if it's done when,
It needs to be done by Wednesday.
by
Right.
Wednesday.
They have them usually out there, usually by noon Monday
On the counter.
on the counter.
So how does this work? I mean, just come and sign them?
You,
So, yeah.
you come in, you
You can
can,
review them.
you can review them, look at them,
If
take
there's,
them apart.
if there's something on it that you, the
Think-
payroll is done by myself or Frank, but if there's a bill that you want, ooh, you got water spill. If there's a bill that you want to review or want to withhold, you can make a note of that and put your initials, and Mary won't pay that until we review it as a select board.
Oh, I see, okay.
And then payroll is,
We sign it.
at minimum, needs the select board chair. Is there any other
Through and she.
education you wanna?
I guess that the
Put your initials.
general, or the journal entries, some may take a little explanation, but maybe he can do that with Mary.
Mary?
I mean, on the most part, most things are normal business. Just every once in a while, there's something that changes, something that's odd, and if you don't understand it, then just bring it out, and maybe Mary will be able to explain it to you right then and there. If not, then it can be pulled and we can look at it.
Junior's bills are in there, the attorney fees, so it's pretty interesting.
All right, so just right here,
Yeah,
Yep.
after you've.
and there's an bond, what's this over here, approved by payment and bond?
So yes, you can initial all of those,
Yeah.
although Mary doesn't require that for it to be dispersed.
But she
If-
does this?
Yes,
Okay.
that needs at least 3 of 5 signatures before she can legally
Okay, you want me to sign this as
Sure.
usual? Yeah.
disperse funds. Do we have all 4 signatures on that? And payroll, you're welcome to look at and sign. Only the select board chair's signature is needed, as we discussed at last meeting, and the vice chair if I can't get to it. But, you know, that's the one we don't want to hold up, so
Yeah.
that payroll
Yeah.
goes out on time.
Yeah. Just sign it, sign it.
Is Fritz watching us on VCAM? Fritz.
You know, there is a delay, so if we get a text in 3 minutes. One viewer? Yeah. Oh, you can see.
Oh, you can check.
That's awesome.
And my wife didn't sign
Are you
this.
telling me that there's only
that?
one person? You can tell
She didn't
that
sign this.
every
It's
time?
live streaming.
Volunteer?
I mean,
Yeah,
people
she
might
volunteered.
watch it afterwards.
Oh, okay.
So she said,
It's Mo
since she was
Harvey.
volunteering, she didn't
It's Mo
expect
Harvey
to get
that's
paid.
watching it,
Oh,
not Fritz. Oh, I forgot.
She was over counting votes.
Oh, yes, Beth and I counted together. Did I enjoyed that?
Yeah. She had fun.
Every once in a while, we had to like stop, breathe, and go blank, blank.
She said somebody voted for me for something. I'm trying to figure out what that was.
What the heck is that? Not mine.
I don't know. I'm not Calvin Klein type of guy.
Calvin Klein. I don't think so.
No.
The moderator gets paid. I didn't know that.
Really?
Yeah. $125. Where's that?
Ooh-wee.
Board budget, town meeting budget, town meeting.
Jeez, I don't know.
It's gonna be really important as we go forward talking about town meeting, to ask Charles to be part of discussion.
Well, I
so
already
that-
spoke with him on town meeting day. I apologize that it was a little laissez-faire this year, and he was fine with it the way it was, but being more
Like-
organized would be better.
Yeah,
Having him come in and be at those meetings with us.
absolutely.
Yes. Why?
Okay, motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Sure.
I'll second that. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed?
9:08. No, actually, I'm 3 minutes fast, 9:05.
What was our
It's 8:06.